Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 31st episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraiya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Naruto watched proudly as his students sparred against each other in Sage mode. Shizun was sparring against Asuma, Shiosui with Fu, Karen with Rin and Hinata with Hanabi. Even if some of them had a better hang of senjutsu than others, all of them had made remarkable progress in such a short amount of time. Now they'd only need to polish it a little more, and they'll be ready for battle. While senjutsu had improved their capabilities dramatically, the ones who showed it more were the Hyuga sisters. Both of them had developed an uncanny ability to project large arms of chakra from their palms, in a way similar to the Uchiha Susanoo. Apparently, according to the Moon Acolytes, Hamura and his daughter Kalika were also sages, and combining senjutsu with the Tensigen could be used to unlock new abilities. Learning how to draw nature energy and mixing it with your chakra is one thing, Naruto began, as he walked around the sparring pairs. But using Sage mode in combat is a totally different beast. Sage mode is finite, and you need to make sure it doesn't run out in the middle of a fight. Conserving nature energy inside your bodies is paramount. Heh, I don't think I'll ever hear you using words like paramount, Naruto-kun, Shizun giggled. Naruto scowled a little. Well, if I'm going to be a teacher, I had to sound the part, right? A part you did wonderfully, Shizun praised, before frowning a little, rubbing her head at the returning memory. That's it, when you weren't breaking our heads open with that staff. Hey! It wasn't that dash, Naruto said, before interrupting himself. Oh wait, that reminds me. I need to check on the new students. Naruto ignored the sparring sages, and moved towards another part of the training field, where 3 tall stalagmites had been erected. On top of those stalagmites, Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari were sitting on a stone slab each, trying to keep balance while drawing nature energy. When the Sand siblings asked Naruto if they could use his help with the rebuilding of a particularly large house, Naruto had to decline since he had to continue his senjutsu class. It was then when the blonde realized that the Sand siblings fit the requirements to learn senjutsu, large chakra pools and good chakra control, and asked them to join him. Once Naruto explained them what Sage mode was about, they were immediately on board. So far, it seems they're getting the hang out of it as well, Naruto observed. Good, that means I don't need to use the staff. Naruto was more careful with the anti-senjutsu staff with Sand siblings than he had been with his previous batch of students. Mostly because, the first time he used it on Temari, she replied with a scathing, "Break my head again, and I'll shove that staff where the sun don't shine." Naruto didn't want to see if the blonde girl was bluffing or not. Hey guys, how are you doing? Naruto asked. I'm doing alright, Gaara said. I think. Me too. The balance was hard at first, but it gets easier once you get the hang of it, Kankuro added. How long do we need to stay here? Temari asked. You guys are making good progress as well, but let's not rush things, okay? Naruto asked. Better stay there a little longer before we can move on to more advanced exercises. While Gaara and Kankuro merely nodded, he could hear Temari loudly snorting. The blonde Jinchuriki decided it was better to return to his other students. He drew their attention by clapping his hands. Okay, everyone, enough with the individual spars. Naruto said. The Konoha and one Taki ninja disengaged, and walked towards Naruto. In order to test your skill with senjutsu, now we're going to dash, but Naruto didn't finish his sentence, as he suddenly disappeared, leaving a puff of smoke behind. Naturally, the senjutsu trainees were left befuddled. Wait, was that a shadow clone? Karen asked. I don't think so, Hinata said. Naruto-kun said that he was leaving some clones to help with the reconstruction, but I thought that this one was the original. So, what do we do now? Fu asked. Mount Mayaboku, do a 1 versus all sparring match to see how much you can stand with. Naruto stopped talking upon realizing that he was no longer in Konoha. Uh, hey there, Naruto, a voice greeted him. Naruto turned around and saw his parents, Itachi and Fukasaku and Shima. It took him a few more seconds to realize where he had been brought. Hey, this is Mount Mayaboku, Naruto said in realization. Indeed it is, Naruto-chan, Fukasaku said. Come on, there's much to discuss regarding your near future, kid. Let's go to see Gamamaru-sama. Naruto nodded and joined his parents, the elder toads and the one Uchiha as they walked towards where the great sage was. So how was the summit? Naruto asked. It had good and bad parts, Tsunade answered. The good part is that we managed to unite the 5 great villages under a single banner. We're part of the Ninja Alliance now. And you're talking with its supreme commander. Jiraiya proudly said. Now you're boasting. I thought you said you didn't want more responsibility piled on your back, Tsunade said, with a smug smile. Jiraiya deflated. Let me impress kid just once, okay? Naruto chuckled at her parents' banter, before realizing something Tsunade had said. Wait, what about the bad parts? Akatsuki showed up. It was Itachi who spoke. More specifically, Obito. Naruto gasped, before scowling as well. What did he want? Did he try something? Fortunately, he only wanted to talk, Tsunade said. He asked us to hand him the 3 remaining Jinchuriki so they could finish reviving the 10 tails. Naturally, we told him to shove it. Oh yes, it turns out Akatsuki didn't capture Killer Bee, Jiraiya added, before Naruto could ask. He managed to trick them with a decoy, and went away. Really? That's awesome, Naruto said, beaming widely. After such a string of failing to protect his fellow Jinchuriki, it was refreshing to hear that Akatsuki failed for a change. Unfortunately, the Jinchuriki is still out there, alone and vulnerable, Itachi said. Kumo already deployed many teams to find him, and Hokage-sama, Tsunade-sama and myself offered the help of our summoned animals. Let's hope we can find him before Akatsuki does, Naruto said. Wait, that was the bad part? If all Obito did was ask for the rest of us and then left, that's not quite a big of a deal. To our negative, Obito then declared the 4th Ninja War, Jiraiya said, his tone being more ominous. Obito claims that, on top of his surviving Akatsuki members and the tailed beasts, he commands an army of Zetsu of 100,000 strong. Okay, that's a pretty big deal, Naruto grimly agreed. So, we are going to war, then? No, we are going to war, Tsunade stated. You are going somewhere else. What? Please don't tell me that you plan to ship me away to some underground bunker. Naruto quickly and loudly protested. You guys need me. The Akatsuki invasion would have been much worse if it wasn't for me. Whoa. Calm down, Naruto. We didn't say that, Jiraiya said, raising his hands defensively. We're going to send you to a special place where you will learn to control the 9 tails. Both you and Fu, Itachi added. The Jinchuriki of the 8 tails will teach you how. Naruto's smile returned. Really? That's awesome. That way, when the time comes, you will be an even greater asset to us than you are now, Jiraiya said. With 3 perfect Jinchuriki, we'll be able to counter Akatsuki's tailed beasts. Awesome. Naruto cheered, before he realized of something. Wait, what has to do with me being here? You'll see shortly, Naruto-chan. Be patient, Shima told him. They continued the rest of their short trek in silence, until they were in front of the large elderly toad sage. Gamamaru shifted on his seat, as he noticed the group. Ah, you brought the child good, Gamamaru said, his voice slow and raspy. Come closer, Naruto, an important task awaits you. Good to see he didn't have one of his episodes of senility, Shima grumbled, making Fukasaku roll his eyes. Naruto took a few steps forward. I'm here, venerable sage, Naruto said while making a bow, trying to sound as respectful as possible. Even he knew this toad was somebody important here. I had a vision you and a green beetle will go to an island, a green paradise, then the two of you will meet an octopus, Gamamaru began. Said octopus will help you tame your inner beasts. You will meet lost family, there will be joy and there will be tears, for you'll re-encounter some who was thought to be lost and will say goodbye to others forever. And finally a wave of darkness will wash over the world. Naruto expected the seer toad to continue, to tell him that he'd win and dispel the darkness, but no such premonition came. Impatient, he decided to speak. What happens next? Don't we beat the darkness? I don't know, Gamamaru admitted. What lies beyond the darkness I can't see. Some events are in place, but the future, always in motion, is always changing. I'm afraid I can't be of much more help. Don't worry, Gamamaru-sama, you helped us a lot already. Fukasaku said, as he turned to the rest of the group. Your news of the ninja war and plans to teach Naruto how to control the Nine Tails align with Gamamaru-sama's predictions. That's why we decided it's about time to give Naruto the key. Key? What key? Naruto asked, tilting his head. The key to your seal, Jiraiya answered. The seal that holds the Nine Tails has a key that, when in your possession, will allow you to open and close the seal at will. You will need to open the seal in order to access the full power of the beast, Tsunade added. Okay. Where's that key, then? Naruto asked. Right here. Naruto turned around to see a small black and orange toad landing beside him. The blonde couldn't help but notice that the toad's stomach was quite strange, as if he was wearing an obi around it, but he could tell those were skin flaps, not cloth. Hello there, the toad said. My name is Jiraiya. Your father trusted the key to me when he sealed the Nine Tails inside you. I've been keeping it here until the moment to hand it to you came. And that moment is now. You have the key. Where? Naruto asked. Again, right here, the toad repeated, this time with less enthusiasm. Naruto's assessment turned out to be right, as the toad's abdomen started to expand in a comical way, until it reached its full length. Then, much to the Uzumaki's surprise, he saw that the toad's abdomen was a very large scroll. Jiraiya unfurled his scroll abdomen to reveal a large and complex sealing pattern. This is the key. Once you have it, you'll have control of the seal, Jiraiya explained, before furling the scroll again. But what I'm supposed to do with this? Eat it? Naruto asked, looking at the rest in search for answers. Hey, the kid is much brighter than he looks, Shima happily pointed out. Naruto's face dropped as he looked at the smiling scroll toad with a grimace of disgust. Land of Frost. In a town on the southern coast of the Land of Frost, Killer Bee was sitting on the outside of a cafe with a bottle of sake on the table as he eagerly worked on his new rap song. His for the time short journey was proving to be very productive and inspiring, and had hopes that his new song would be finished before the end of the month. He looked at the large waves crashing into the empty beach, smiled, and continued writing. Ah yeah, the view from here is amazing, I can feel new rhymes rising, he cheered, as he happily wrote. I really needed this vacation, so I can visit new locations. Hey, Bee, his tailed beast called. What do you want, number 8? I'm busy writing, can't you wait? The Jinchuriki replied. Bee, you know that this is foolish, the 8 Tails insisted. The Akatsuki must know about your deception by now, and they will be looking for you. Why don't we go back to Kumo? You already enjoyed quite a few days of vacation. Fool ya fool. My vacation's just started. And you're afraid of Akatsuki, are you so faint-hearted? Killer Bee asked. Those idiots would never find me if I constantly move, I bet they won't be able to follow my groove. Killer Bee could hear his tailed beast sigh. At the very least, try to keep a low profile. Oh, Why I even bother? I'm so dead. Come on, don't be so dramatic. Don't bring me down, or it will be problematic. I make sure those fools don't get their hands on you, and if I find one of them I'll turn him black and blue. Killer Bee assured him. Needless to say, the Eight Tails wasn't convinced. Though he decided to give up, since while Killer Bee was stubborn on his own, talking to him was an uphill battle when he was so focused on a new song. He would try sometime later. However, little did the Jinchuriki nor his tailed beast realize that somebody had noticed their presence and were going to send such information to their boss. Pwajj. Naruto coughed, having just swallowed Giratora. I think I'm going to throw up. Come on, Naruto, it wasn't that bad, Jiraiya said. I swallowed toads much larger than that. Naruto wanted to ask why, but he felt like he wouldn't like the answer. He was about to say something else, but continued coughing violently. Wait, isn't Going Fu going to need the key to her seal as well? Tsunade asked. We need to talk with whoever sealed the 7 tails inside her. No need to, Jiraiya said. Fu's seal can already be undone by herself. It's not as secure as the 8 trigram seal, but given that 7 tails is not as powerful, it's not necessary. And thank goodness, since the man who did the sealing is Shibuki's father, who died many years ago. Now that you guys have everything you need, we'll send you back to Konoha, Fukasaku said, as he and Shima made a hand seal. Heh, thanks to the toads, we can skip another week-long trip in order to get back home, Tsunade observed, nodding in satisfaction. We'll return where Naruto-chan was just before he was summoned here. Shima added. And with that, the 4 Konoha ninjas and the 2 elder toads disappeared, leaving a cloud of smoke in their wake. Training Ground 25, hey, look, Naruto is back. Fu cheerfully said. All the sage trainees turned around to see Naruto's return, though they could see he didn't return alone. Oh, Hokage-sama, Tsunade-sama, and Itachi-kun are also back, Shizen observed. Hey, Itachi. Shursui called out, as he took a step forward. The younger Uchiha could see that his cousin was in sage mode, if the wing-shaped black marking around his eyes were any indication. Check this out. Shursui then proceeded to create an armored Susanoo around him, armed with a drill-like spear. Senjutsu Susanoo. Not only is stronger than the normal one, but thanks to sage mode, I can counter the eye strain caused by the Mangekyo Sharingan, meaning that I can use it as much as I want despite not having the eternal version. Itachi smiled, genuinely impressed by his cousin's breakthrough. That's amazing, Shursui. I can't wait to see it in action. Wait a minute, if the Mangekyo Sharingan slowly worsens your eyesight until you go blind, how is that Obito isn't blind yet? Rin asked. He uses his Mangekyo Sharingan non-stop. If I were to make a conjecture, I'd say that the regeneration provided by his Zetsu body is able to nullify the deteriorating eyesight, Itachi guessed. But I wouldn't know for sure. Come on, Itachi, fight me. Today, I shall reclaim my rightful place as the greatest of the Uchiha. Shursui said, as he pointed at Itachi in an overly dramatic manner. Sadly, you will have to leave that for later, since we have urgent matters to attend to, Tsunade began. Shursui, Hinata, given that the 2 of you are the heads of the Uchiha and Hyuga, you need to come with us. Naruto, use some clones to tell the rest of the clan heads still in the village that they're needed for an urgent meeting at the Hokage Tower. Right away, Mom, Naruto said, as he did as Tsunade asked. Fu, you will have to come with us too, Jiraiya said, much to the green-haired girl's surprise. There has been some developments that concern you. Sure, understood, Hokage-sama, Fu said with a nod. Even she could tell that the situation was serious. Can you guys tell us what just happened? Hanabi asked. I'll leave a clone here in order to explain, Naruto said. Sadly, the class will have to end sooner than usual. I'll tell Gaara and his siblings as well. Meanwhile, Shima noticed that Shursui, who was speaking with Itachi, radiated nature energy. Wait, is he a sage too? Shima asked in shock. Not just him, Fukasaku said. All the humans here are sages. Can you feel it, Ma? This place is overflowing with nature energy. How it is possible? Shima asked in shock. I told you Naruto-chan wanted to teach other people how to use nature energy, Fukasaku explained. And it seems he was successful. Without Mayaboku's special oil? How did he do it? The female toad asked, her shock growing with each second. Naruto-chan surely does the impossible, doesn't he? Fukasaku asked, sounding proud. Come, I'll tell you his idea. Hokage Tower, council room, an hour later as Jiraiya surveyed the people sitting at both sides of the large table and making sure that nobody was missing, the Hokage realized that he had never seen the council room so crowded. At his sides were his four advisors, Tsunade, Hiruzen, Koharu, and Hamura, and next to them were Naruto and Fu, the Jinchuriki. Then, there were the clan heads of the most important and or populous Konoha clans, such as the Hyuga, Uchiha, Sarutobi, or Aburame, as well many other high-ranking members of Konoha's ninja corps, such as the Jonin commander or the Umbu commander. Some of the people there were pulling double duty, such as the aforementioned Jonin commander, Shikaku Nara, also the head of the Nara clan. Hinata wasn't the only young teen representing her clan. Ino Yamanaka was also there, as the clan head of hers. Is everybody here? Yeah, I think so, the Hokage muttered, mostly to himself. Hello, and thank you for coming here with such short notice. I'll go to the point. In their bid to claim all tailed beasts, Akatsuki has declared a war against the elemental nations. Naturally, the effect was immediate. Many of the present started to murmur among each other, while others started to ask questions to the Hokage, raising their voice over each other in hopes to be heard or answered first. Order! Order! Tsunade shouted, slamming her fist into the table for added effect multiple times. Thankfully, she managed to control her strength enough not to break it. The Hokage will explain you everything. Now keep quiet and listen, because this shit is important. Thank you, Haim, Jiraiya said. Tsunade smiled in return. As you probably know, my wife and I have been in the Land of Iron on a summit with the other four Kage, in order to discuss what to do with the Akatsuki threat. In the middle of the meeting, Obito, the new leader of Akatsuki, appeared before us and demanded the 3 remaining Jinchuriki to be handed to him. Naturally, we told him no. In response, he threatened to unleash an army of Zetsu 100,000 strong, backed by the tailed beasts Akatsuki has captured so far, against Konoha and the rest of the villages. If what Obito says is true, then Akatsuki possesses a power that Konoha alone can't hope to defeat. Fortunately, we aren't alone. On top of Kiri and Suna helping us, Kumo and IWA agreed to join us to form the world's very first ninja alliance. We shall dash, you have to be kidding me. Some Inuzuka shouted. Are you really willing to ally with IWA scum? Not to mention Kumo. Choza added. Those guys have been trying to kidnap little girls with bloodline limits from Konoha multiple times. I think it's obvious the situation at hand is dire enough to merit such measures, Shibi calmly replied, though his tone was firm. I trust Hokage-sama to do the right thing. I agree with Shibi-san, Shikaku said. Besides, Kiri and Konoha used to be enemies, yet now we're allies. Come on Shikaku, you're supposed to take my side. Choza loudly protested. I take the side that makes more sense. Shikaku argued back, raising his voice to match his large friends. Eventually, another argument broke out as everybody tried to yell at each other, trying to assert who was right not by the strength of their arguments but by the volume of their voices, resulting in a cacophony of shouts and yells. Silence, you fucks! Tsunade bellowed, making everybody to instantly shut up. The next time you do that, all of you will go out of the window, got it? Thank you again, Haim. Anyway, as I was saying, the 5 great villages shall join forces as a ninja alliance, with me directing it as its supreme commander, This new managed to ease some of those present who didn't like the idea of working with villages who had been enemies until now. Given that we're in a situation of war, no more missions shall be accepted, and all the accepted missions minus the A and S rank shall be cancelled and their price reimbursed to the customers. We won't fight individually. The plan is for all villages to create a single, massive army composed of every village. Even if they don't usually involve themselves in the affair of ninjas, the samurai of the Land of Iron shall assist us in this war, Tsunade added. We're also working on bringing Aim and Taki into the alliance, since we'll need every last man and woman able to fight if we want to win this. Hokage-sama, Hamura spoke. What about the Jinchuriki? What are we going to do with them? Akatsuki already tried to claim them by force once, Koharu added. If we keep them here, they will come again. And I don't trust the rest of the villages to move their armies into the Land of Fire to protect us in time before a second attack happens. You do raise a good point, and rest assured that such topic had been dealt with, Jiraiya said, before looking into Naruto and Fu's general direction. Many of you know that Kyumo's remaining Jinchuriki, the Raikage younger brother Killer Bee, has complete control over his tailed beast. The Raikage had agreed to allow his brother to train Naruto and Fu so they can master their Jinchuriki powers as well. Said training will take part at a secret location, ensuring the safety of our Jinchuriki. Once Naruto and Fu finish their training, they shall join the front lines. With their new powers, we should be able to win the war for good, Tsunade added. Though we do hope that we can win before that happens. Indeed, Jiraiya continued. Now, while we were at the summit, the other Kages and I created a structure for the army of the Ninja Alliance. It will be split into two groups, the support divisions, composed by the medics, sensors, and intelligence, and the battle regiment, split into 5 divisions. Each of these divisions will be led by a field commander. We need to discuss which ninjas shall be deployed in which divisions. Oh, thank the heavens! Killer Bee Sensei is still alive. Karui squealed in joy, after hearing what the Naruto clone had told her. The Naruto clone had gathered the Konoha 15, minus Hinata and Ino, who were busy attending the meeting with the Hokage, Rin, the Sand siblings, Maki's students and Killer Bee's students. One of the first things Naruto had told them was about the ending of the summit, Obito's appearance, the revelation that Killer Bee had escaped Akatsuki, and the declaration of war. But if Sensei is alive, why didn't he return to us already? T asked. Maybe he was unable to, Omoi began. Maybe tried to find a town in order to ask for help, but said town was ran by a criminal gang who wanted to capture Sensei in order to cash on his bounty, but then Karui silenced Omoi with a well-timed slap to the back. Enough with your nonsense. I'm sure Sensei had a very good reason to do so, Karui firmly stated. It's not that he pretended to be dead just so he could go on vacation. I'd cut his balls if he did that. While the escape of the Jinchuriki of the 8 Tails is indeed a very good news, we should focus on the greater picture, Gaara stated. There's a war in the horizon. One that will encompass all 5 great villages. A war of this scale is something that has never been seen before. Well, I for once am not worried, Kiba interjected. You should have seen those Akatsuki shits coming here and wreaking havoc. I doubt war will be any different than what we went through already. I wouldn't speak so lightly, Kiba, Niji interjected. While I never experienced the horrors of war, plenty of my clansmen, my own father included, did. And they don't have pleasant memories of such events. Yeah, if anything, it's going to be worse, Shikamaru added. Before we used to have home field advantage. In an open war, it won't be the case. And as much as we enjoyed staying here, that means we will have to head back to Suna and prepare for the war, Temari said, as she and Shikamaru exchanged gloomy stares. Guess it was fun while it lasted. Hey, we will see each other soon, Shikamaru said, trying to be optimistic. Even if it will be on a battlefield. But hopefully, you guys will be on the same side, Matsuri chimed in. Yeah, it will be so tragic if you had to be at different sides of a conflict, Yukata said. Hey, that sounds like a neat idea for a romantic novel, don't you think, Matsuri-chan? Totally. Maybe we can work on it once this war is over. Matsuri suggested. Also, that's not all. The Naruto clone intervened, before Matsuri and Yukata could derail the conversation any further. Fu and I aren't going to take part in the war. At least, not from the very beginning. It's because the two of you are Jinchuriki, Shino said. It wasn't a question, but an statement. Yeah. The Raikage is going to send us to this super secret place Kumo owns where their Jinchuriki train to master their powers, the clone explained. Fu and I are going to be sent there to do that as well. Once our training is over, we will join you guys. Oh, I think that I know what place you refer to, Karui said. B-sensei told us about it. It's extremely hard to find, and only the highest-ranking Kumo Jonin know how to reach it. You two will be safe as long as you're there. What do you know about that place, Karui? Choji asked the redhead. As much as B-sensei told me, Karui replied. She then frowned a little. Though I'm not going to say anything out loud here in the open. There might be an Akatsuki spy listening to this conversation. Oh, right. Sorry, I didn't realize of that, Choji sheepishly apologized. We might better return as well, T stated. I think we've been here long enough, and the journey to Kumo is a long one. With that, the foreign ninjas returned to the places they were staying at while in Konoha in order to pack their things in order to move back to their home villages, leaving the Konoha ninjas alone. I can't believe Obito went as far as to declare a war to the entire continent, Rin said, as she wrapped her arms around her body. Just what happened to him after my death to make him fall this low? It might be hard for you to do, but you must understand that the current Obito is not the same boy who used to be your teammate, Shino replied. I apologize if I sound cold, but as long as he poses a threat of such magnitude, we should focus on bringing him down, not on what caused him to turn to our enemies. Yes, I agree, Rin forced herself to say. You know, I have the feeling that, the next time we see Obito, it will be the last no matter how things end between us. I think your prediction will be accurate, was Shino's reply. Hokage Tower. Many hours later it took them quite a lot of time and many heated discussions, but they were finally able to finish the division destination for every active Konoha ninja. The sun was starting to hide in the horizon, and Jiraiya was reviewing the draft one last time. The rest of the people present in the room had left already once the meeting had been officially concluded, leaving the Hokage to make sure that everything was perfect. Fortunately, his wife was still with him, helping him with such mentally exhausting task. I believe this is okay, Jiraiya said, before looking at Tsunade. Unless you have something to say, that's it. No, I think we did a good job with the division assignments, Tsunade said, before letting out a yawn. So, do we need to send this to anybody or? I'm the Supreme Commander, remember? Jiraiya boasted with a confident grin. In fact, it's the other Kages who should defer to me. Though once the other Kages have done the division assignment, we will gather at the Allied Forces HQ for the final preparations. Besides the main chain of command, the Kages also decided to build a new place to serve as the Alliance's headquarters for ease of command, instead of using any of the ninja villages. Given that Jiraiya was the Supreme Commander, it would be built in the Land of Fire, around Konoha's vicinity. Hopefully the new headquarters will be finished soon, Jiraiya said, before standing up. And I don't know about you, but I'm so tired I could sleep for a week. And the days to come are going to be even crazier than today, so we better get as much rest as we can. I can agree with that, Tsunade replied. The two Sannin were about to stand up and leave for their home, when somebody else entered the room. It was Hiruzen, their former sensei, who had left the meeting room not that much ago. Sensei? What are you doing here? Tsunade asked. Shouldn't you be home, resting? Yes, I should, Hiruzen admitted. However, I forgot about something important, and thank goodness, I have found you two here before you left. What is it, Sensei? Jiraiya asked. Can you tell me what division I'm supposed to be assigned to? Hiruzen asked, trying to remember. Because no matter how much I try, I just can't recall it. Jiraiya and Tsunade shared a look of worry before their eyes rested on their aged sensei again. Sensei, Tsunade began, trying to sound gentle. We didn't assign you to any division. Though much to their surprise, the former Hokage smiled. Yes, that's what I thought. I would have remembered if you did. Jiraiya, however, immediately realized what the former Hokage wanted to say. Whoa there, wait a second, sensei. I hope you're not asking me to send you to the battlefield. And why not? Because I'm old? Hiruzen replied, indignant. I may be long past my prime, but I know I can still help our younger ninjas in the battleground. Sensei, you fought in every past ninja war so far, Tsunade continued. Don't you think it's about time that you take a rest? You did more than enough for several generations that came after yours. Yeah, you should spend the days you have left playing with your grandkids, not fighting another war, Jiraiya added. That's no excuse for me not to do more, Hiruzen firmly said, as a frown started to develop on his face. How can I look at my grandkids in the eyes, knowing that their parents are risking their lives for their future, but their grandfather and clan leader isn't? Listen, sensei, you can't dash, Jiraiya was about to say, but was interrupted when Tsunade whispered something into his ear. You sure? Tsunade merely nodded. Very well then. Sensei, my wife here has suggested me a position for you where your talents won't be wasted, Jiraiya began. Jiraiya, I'm not going to accept any position of war advisor or something equally inane just so you can dash, it's not that, the Toad Sage said, interrupting him. I think you can be a pretty good addition to Naruto and Fu's security detail. Jiraiya, Hiruzen grumbled. Come on, sensei. This is important. Jiraiya insisted. Do you think I would send mediocre ninjas to protect my son? The fact that we thought of you for this should speak volumes about how much we trust you and your skills. Hiruzen wanted to protest, but in the end he resigned to Jiraiya's decision. I always preached that the older generation should get more involved in the development of the younger ninjas. It would be very hypocritical of me to turn down such position, Hiruzen said, as he smiled. His eyes rested on Tsunade. Well played, Tsunade. You always had a cunning mind. Tsunade merely smirked in return. Don't think you're going to be a glorified babysitter, sensei, Jiraiya reassured him. Everything regarding Naruto and his training is important. If you can keep him safe and help him train with his new powers, your actions will help us more than if we merely send you to a battlefield. Naruto, Fu, and his bodyguards will depart in a few days for Kumo's secret base, where the Jinchuriki of the Eight Tails should be waiting for them, Tsunade added. Meet them at the West Gate. Understood. I'll be heading home now to pack some essentials for the journey, Hiruzen said, finally leaving the two Sannin alone. Stubborn old man, Jiraiya groaned. You have permission to kill me if I end up like that in my old age. You may end up regretting those words, Tsunade replied with a cheeky grin. Land of Frost, that very moment since he left that port town, Killer Bee has been prey to a feeling of uneasiness, as if an impending danger greater than any other was hanging on his head. That's what made the rogue Jinchuriki to leave the town and seek refuge elsewhere. I feel like there's somebody out there out to cut my balls, Killer Bee said, before shivering a little. Bee, don't you think it's a little too dangerous to wander around like this? The Eight Tails warned. You should have waited until next morning to continue your journey. No, you see, it's part of my plan, to hide in the darkness, the idea of a wise man. My enemies won't find me, if I travel during the night, that way I can avoid any fight. Oh yeah. Killer Bee rapped, satisfied with his brilliant idea. Brilliant according to him at least. That moment, Killer Bee heard something rustling a nearby bush. He turned around, and unsheathed one his swords. What? Have I been found? How? I've been silent and sneaky like a foxhound, Killer Bee said, frantically looking around. Just a second ago you've been loudly rapping, the eight tails deadpanned. I'm sure everybody in a kilometer radius heard you. Once again, Bee heard another rustle, followed by another one. There were more than just one enemy, and they were getting closer. Yes, he could hear them coming closer and closer. They weren't even bothering with stealth anymore. It seems those Akatsuki boars are back. Come on, number 8, let's give them a midthigh smack, Killer Bee said, unsheathing another sword. The eight tails sighed. I knew it was going to end like this one way or another. Another rustle, this time much louder. That's where the attack was going to come from. I got you now. Prepare to dash, drop kick. However, that was merely a distraction. Killer Bee barely had any time to see a white and brown blur dashing at him, before he was at the receiving end of a brutal flying kick. Said kick sent him flying against a tree, which was instantly brought down by the sheer force of Bee's momentum. 3 more trees suffered the same fate until Bee finally stopped. You ugh, that was, the dazed Killer Bee said. Looking up, he saw a massive figure angrily towering over him, surrounded by more ninjas. The giant grabbed him by his neck and lifted him to eye level. Bee brother? Killer Bee blabbered. You fucking idiot, the Rakage said, as he started to violently shake Killer Bee. Making me believe you were dead so could go your merry way. You goddamn dumbass, I'm going to punch you until I beat the stupidity out of you. You hear me? When I'm done with you. The rest of the Kumo ninjas merely watched the comical display, knowing full well that the Rakage wouldn't carry those threats. At least most of them. It's a good thing we found him before the Akatsuki did, C noted. He then turned to a brown-haired Kumo kunoichi wearing a short Kumo flak jacket that left her midriff exposed. Ran, send a message home. Tell them that we finally found Killer Bee, and we will be sending him back to the village. Tell them to prepare a ship, since we're going to send him to the island Turtle. Understood, C-san, the kunoichi, Ran, said before leaping away. Well, it's a good thing that in the end, it was all a scare, C said, sighing. That your great-grandkids are going to feel it. That's it, if you live long enough to father them. Konoha's west gate, a few days later Naruto, Fu, and their escorts were ready to depart Konoha for Kumo's Mistress Island. Their escort team was composed by Genma, Rado, Choza Akimichi, Yugao, Hei-8, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and lastly Tenzo, who was there just in case things would go out of control regarding the Nine Tails. Jiraiya, Tsunade, their younger children, Naruto's teammates, and Team Kakashi were there to bid the two Jinchuriki a safe journey. Once you arrive the island, send me a toad so I know that the journey went well, Jiraiya told his son. Since it's one of the few ways to deliver a message Akatsuki has no way of intercepting. Don't worry Dad, I'm sure Akatsuki doesn't even know where are we going, Naruto reassured him. Still, it's better to be too cautious than to be careless, Tsunade agreed with her husband. Fu walked towards Shino, wrapped her arms around his neck, and gave him a kiss on the lips. Guess we won't see each other in some time, Fu said, sounding a little melancholic. I'll keep you in my mind to inspire me if this training proves to be too much. I know that whatever trials you have to face, you will overcome them without trouble, Shino reassured her. And in a rare display for the Aburame, he smiled. Because you're one of the strongest and most skilled kunoichi I've ever met. Fu didn't say anything, she merely rested her head on Shino's shoulder. Hinata, naturally, also wanted to give her boyfriend a special goodbye. Good luck during your training, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Hopefully the war will be over before we need you to intervene. Yeah, let's hope, Naruto said. The two of them kissed. However, during the kiss, a jolt of electricity shocked the blonde. Naruto yelped and jumped back, holding his mouth in pain. Ouch! What the? You shocked me. Naruto protested. Hee, sorry, Hinata sheepishly said. Takuya-san said that my powers have been growing lately. It seems I have some trouble keeping them under control. Guess you're not the only one who needs some training, are you? Sorry to cut this moment short, but Naruto and Fu need to head to the port as soon as possible, Jiraiya said. Sensei, given that you're the most veteran ninja of the group, you'll be the captain of this mission. Good luck. Don't worry, Jiraiya, Tsunade. Your son and Fu-sen will be safe under my watch, Hiruzen promised then. Everybody, let's go. The elderly Hokage leaped towards the trees, with the rest of the Konoha ninjas following him. Jiraiya and the others turned back and returned to the village, given that they soon would leave their home for a dangerous mission. Mountain Graveyard. Given that Akatsuki was heading into the final phase of their plans, Obito had decided to make his secret base, formerly belonging to Madara, into his base of operations and headquarters for the war. Obito was now inside a cave that connected his lair to the exterior, in the middle of a mountain. Deidara, Kisame, Tonari, and Black Zetsu were standing around him. Look at that. When we started, we were 10, and now only half of us remain, Kisame said, looking at the small group, before his gaze rested upon Obito again. So, what's the plan, boss? Despite our failure at invading Konoha, we still have the superior numbers. 95,000 Zetsu clones, plus about 2,000 puppets Tonari still has in the moon. Obito looked at Tonari, who nodded in return. According to the information provided by Zetsu, the Ninja Alliance managed to marshal a force of 80,000 strong. They may bump those numbers to 85,000 if they manage to convince some of the minor villages to lend their forces. Still, numbers aren't everything, Tonari reminded. Konoha has ninjas powerful enough to be worth dozens of your Zetsu clones, and it would be unwise not to assume the same of the other villages. We need to be cautious. Cautious? What we need to do is attack now. In war, whoever strikes first, strikes twice. Deidara loudly interjected. We should strike now while they're getting ready for us. And I agree with you, Deidara, Obito said, much to the blonde's satisfaction. We shall start moving our troops as soon as possible. My plan is to focus our force on Konoha and Kumo. Given that the remaining Jinchuriki are under their care, that's where they will be hiding. By concentrating our forces on those two villages, we will force them to come out and join the fight. Once in the open, catching them should be much easier. A bold plan, Obito-kun. Somebody would say it's a little too bold, a new voice said. The five Akatsuki turned around, and saw Orochimaru casually strolling into the cave. Kimimaro and Taiyuya were flanking him, acting as bodyguards. While every other Akatsuki got on guard, especially Kisame and Deidara, Obito smiled, strangely enough. Orochimaru. So nice to see you drop by. Obito said in a mock-happy tone, spreading his arms around. I was quite disappointed when Deidara and Kisame failed to kill you, but it was so selfless of you saving me the trouble of tracking you down again. Obito's smile disappeared, replaced by a scowl of anger. Kill him. The four other Akatsuki moved forward ready to attack. Kimimaro and Taiyuya quickly placed themselves in front of their master, acting as human shields, while Orochimaru jumped backwards and made several hand seals. Hand seals both Deidara and Kisame recognized. Oh shit. Don't let him finish, Deidara said, as he rushed to prepare an explosive. Too late. Summoning Jutsu, Impure World Resurrection. Orochimaru slammed his hands into the ground, and 5 coffins emerged. Said coffins were marked with the kanji of each of the 5 elemental nations, and a number under them. 3 2s, and 2 3s. The lids of the coffins fell forward, revealing the reanimated corpses of the 2nd Tsuchikage and 2nd Mizukage that nearly killed Kisame and Deidara during their previous fight, plus the 3rd Kazekage, 3rd Raikage, and 2nd Hokage. Are you sure you wish to fight me? Orochimaru asked, almost in a taunting tone. Obito, you have nothing to win and much to lose. So, that's why he let Kisame and Deidara live despite having the chance to kill them. Either he or a spy working for him must have followed them to this place, Obito thought. There was a moment of tense silence, as Obito weighed the question. Kisame and Deidara already told Obito about Orochimaru's reanimated puppets, and how it was impossible to kill them. He didn't know what the Sannin wanted, but given that he already declared the war, he couldn't afford to focus on him any longer. He knew for a fact that even if Orochimaru wasn't a friend, he would never help the Ninja Alliance. Given that truth-seeking balls could nullify ninjutsu, he was confident Tonari could permanently kill those reanimations. Still, a fight right here could end with one or two Akatsuki dead, and he couldn't afford to lose more people before the war ever began. Still, before making his decision, there were a couple questions that needed answers. "What do you want, traitor?" Obito asked. "You defected the organization, and now you come back to us. What the hell do you want? Why don't we talk somewhere more private?" Orochimaru asked. "That pocket dimension of yours, perhaps?" "So, you know of Kamui," Obito said. "Very well." Obito closed the distance between him and his fellow Konoha traitor, grabbed Orochimaru, and teleported the two of them away. The next second, both Obito and Orochimaru reappeared inside the Kamui dimension. Orochimaru took a few seconds to inspect it. "So, this is it?" Orochimaru asked. "I must say, it's far more underwhelming than I expected." "Why did you ask me to bring you here?" Obito asked. "You know I could teleport back to the real world and leave you here to rot forever?" Orochimaru merely chuckled. "Do you really think I'd ask you to bring me here if I didn't have a way out? I'm sure you know about how reverse summoning works." "Of course," Obito said, rolling his eyes. "Come on, I have a war to win. Make your demands already." "While I have no intention of returning to Akatsuki as a permanent member," Orochimaru began, "there's something I want. Something both sides of this conflict have. Something I need to possess in order to achieve my goal." "The Rinnegan," Obito guessed. "Do you expect me to give you my Rinnegan?" "Really, Orochimaru?" "Of course not. But it's not the only Rinnegan out there, is it?" Orochimaru asked. "Konoha managed to keep the other. According to my spies, Tsunadeheim wields it now." "I'm aware of that as well." "So, you want Tsunade's Rinnegan. But you can't take it on your own," Obito continued to guess. "Not even with your army of immortal zombies?" "My plan was for Danzo to get the Rinnegan for me." "I'll keep one, he would keep the other," Orochimaru said. "Imagine my surprise when I found that Danzo was, and has always been, a puppet of yours all these years." "A masterful move indeed, Obito-kun. I admit I underestimated you." "So, that's why you defected the organization. Once you got what you wanted, we were of no more use to you anymore," Obito said in disgust. "Still, you haven't answered my question." "Regrettably, no, I can't do it alone. I already tried it before in the past, yet Konoha somehow found a way to neutralize my reanimations," Orochimaru said, his eyes narrowing, angered by the memory. "But if we join our forces, both our chances will be better." "Let's join forces, Obito-kun. With my army of undead supporting your White Zetsu army, the Ninja Alliance will be crushed. I will get Tsunade's Rinnegan, and you'll get the last three-tailed beasts." "Do you think I'm going to trust you with a Rinnegan?" Obito asked. "Why not? Once you form the 10 tails and absorb it inside your body, I shouldn't be a threat to you anymore, Rinnegan or not," Orochimaru said with a shrug. "You can then create that new world without war and conflict you wish so much. I will simply spend the rest of my years in quiet solitude, continuing my research. Both of us win." Regardless of how much he despised the Sannin, he had to admit it was an enticing offer. An immortal army composed of the strongest ninjas that ever lived, yes, that would give him the additional push he needed to crush his enemies. I already saw those 5 Kages. What else do you have? Obito asked. Heads of the strongest clans of all the elemental nations. Legendary ninjas. Former Jinchuriki, Orochimaru began. And if you bring me new samples of DNA, I can create more. Sounds promising, Obito said with a nod. One last thing. Do you have anybody disposable? Somebody you resurrected by accident, or who didn't meet your expectations? Quite a lot. Why? Orochimaru asked. He didn't know why Obito was interested in his failed reanimations, something that made him uneasy. Summon one of those now, please, Obito asked. Not sure why, Orochimaru complied. Even if he was worried, he was also curious as to what Obito wanted to do. Another coffin appeared between the two of them, revealed a young IWA ninja. Huh? Where am I? What is this place? The disoriented ninja asked. Wordlessly, Obito placed a hand on the reanimation's head. Ninjendo. Then, much to Orochimaru's shock, Obito ripped the soul out of the zombie's body. The soul quickly vanished, returning to the afterlife, while the body left behind crumbled into dust and ashes covering the sacrifice used to create it. It doesn't regenerate. Good, Obito said, smirking at Orochimaru, who didn't smile back. Glad to see that. If you try to do something funny, I have the means to stop your army. Also, given that Tsunade has the same power as I do now, I'd avoid sending your reanimations against her, or their fate will be the same. Guess my position isn't as strong as I initially believed, Orochimaru was forced to admit. So, now that you proved you have nothing to fear from me, do we have a deal? We have a deal, Obito confirmed. However, there's one more thing I want from you. A few minutes later, in the real world, both Orochimaru and Obito returned from Obito's Kamui dimension through a spiraling portal. The two of them appeared satisfied. Guys, I know that Orochimaru abandoned us in the past, but we're going to let him help us in this endeavor, Obito announced. Kisame chuckled, while Tonari raised an eyebrow. Deidara, however, was louder than the other two. Did you lose your fucking mind? Deidara shouted. So, this guy leaves silence. Obito shouted back, forcing the IWA ninja to keep quiet. There are circumstances that forced me to accept this kind of agreement. Also, before we begin the war, one more thing, we are going to seal our half of the 9 tails. What? Zetsu asked, perplexed. Aren't we going to use it? I thought that we have to have the other 8 beasts first before we could seal that one, Tonari said. If it's just half, then there's no danger, Obito told them. Now enough blabbering. It's time to get to work. Okay, here we go. You ready? Yeah, let's get on with it. I should warn you that this might hurt. Like a lot. I know. Come on, let's start already. If the pain becomes too much, tell me and Goddamn girl, do you ever shut up? Alright, sorry. I'll get started immediately. Truth-seeking ball. Inside a room of the Hyuga compound were 2 women, Anko Mitarashi, lying on her belly on a bed, wearing nothing from her waist up, and Hinata Hyuga, sitting beside her, having just created a truth-seeking ball. After word that Hinata had used her new powers to remove the what most people thought unremovable caged bird seal, the Hyuga clan head got a visit from Anko, who asked if she could do whatever she did to the branch house members in order to remove the cursed seal Orochimaru marked her with so many years ago. While Hinata was a busy woman, she was able to make some time for such an important request. Okay, here we go, Hinata said. The blue-haired girl slowly lowered the truth-seeking ball towards the cursed seal on the base of Anko's neck. Even if it was in a less dangerous zone than the caged bird seal, and it wasn't linked to the brain, the neck was a delicate zone as well. Finally, the truth-seeking ball made contact with Anko's skin, and the orb started to erase the seal. There was a hissing sound that was quickly silenced by Anko's screams. Ai. On top of the screams, Enko started to trash wildly in place. Hinata was startled, almost fell from her chair as she quickly removed the black orb from Enko's body. Sorry. Hinata quickly apologized. Why did you stop, girl? Enko asked, as she tried to regain her bearings. You look to be in a lot of pain and you started to move a lot, Hinata replied. Yes, I admit it hurt like hell, Enko said, rubbing the marked spot. Did it hurt that much with the other seal? A little, but not as much as you say, Hinata said. Though, I can see that this seal is different. The caged bird seal felt inert, and this one it feels like it's alive. Like it was trying to fight me, and wanted to preserve its existence at all costs. Like a cornered animal. Yeah, that's because this seal has a portion of Orochimaru's chakra and will, Enko explained. As long as this seal exists, I'm linked to him. It has a mind of its own, and if I drop my guard, it will try to take over me. That's horrible, Hinata said, covering her mouth with her hands. Why didn't you come to me sooner, so I could take it away? I did come sooner. Enko replied. But you were always busy. Enough talking, come on, let's do it again. Alright. But first, let me take some precautions. Lay still, Hinata said. When Enko was completely immobile, Hinata delivered a series of finger strikes at several points of Enko's body, near the arms and the legs. Ow! What the hell was that for? An indignant Enko asked. Hey, what the fuck? I can't move. Sorry, but I needed to make sure you don't trash again like before. Not even unwittingly, Hinata then placed a pillow under Enko's head. If the pain becomes too unbearable, bite this. Once again, Hinata lowered the truth-seeking ball, and the moment it touched the seal, it began all over again. Enko started to scream, though this time she bit into the pillow. Hinata continued to work on the seal, who was fighting to stay alive. Black markings started to spread around Enko as it tried to use her own chakra to sustain itself. However, the speed Hinata erased it was faster than the speed it regenerated itself. Eventually, the original mark disappeared, and with it, the black markings around Enko's body. Despite only taking a couple minutes, it felt like much longer, especially for Enko, who in her 27 years of life never underwent such an intense physical pain. Not even when she was training for torture and interrogation. There was a reddened spot of burnt skin where the seal once was, a spot that Hinata quickly healed with the mystic palm jutsu. She also removed the pillow from under Enko's face, which had been tattered to shreds. Lastly, Enko felt 4 more quick stabs of pain, before she regained the mobility on her arms and legs. It is done, Hinata announced. How do you feel? Oh my god, it's gone, it's really gone. Enko said, as she sat up and instinctively touched her neck. I can't sense his presence anymore. I'm glad I could be of help, EEP. You're my hero, girl. Enko shouted, as she pulled Hinata into a bone-crushing hug. Whatever you want in return, you only need to ask. That moment, the door of the room opened, revealing a Hyuga man with a look between worried and ready to fight. I heard screams. Hinata-sama, are you WHOA? The Hyuga said, blushing furiously. Because when Enko hugged Hinata, she was still naked from the waist up, making the scene look far more suggestive than it was in reality. Get lost, dumbass. Don't you guys ever knock, the snake mistress hissed. The Hyuga silently left before closing the door, while Hinata, still blushing, wordlessly handed Enko her mesh shirt, which the snake mistress took and put it on, much to the brunette's relief. It was a pleasure helping you, Enko. I wish I could have done it earlier, Hinata said again. If you want anything else, you only need to ask. Enko was about to say that it's okay and what she did was more than enough for a single lifetime, but that was before an idea dawned upon her. I feel kind of bad asking you something so soon, but you could also help me with something else, Enko said, sounding a little uneasy. If it's within my power, I shall do my best, Hinata said, smiling reassuringly. Well, you see to the west of the continent, land ho, one of the ninjas yelled. Naruto and Fu, who were casually chatting with each other at the ship's deck, quickly rushed to the handrail at the edge of the ship in order to check if it was true. And, indeed, they could see the small shape of an island in the horizon, slowly growing as the ship approached. Man, finally, Naruto said in exasperation. We've been on this ship for weeks. I want to start my training already. Yeah, me too. Fu agreed. Especially since they didn't even let us train in the ship. What a bunch of party poopers. We didn't let you train in the ship, because if you did there would be no ship, a third voice said. Naruto and Fu turned their heads towards the newcomer, the third Hokage, who walked towards them. Hiruzen was wearing a black and gray battle gear, helmet included. It was quite an odd sight, given that, like most people, Naruto and Fu were used seeing him wearing his usual loose white robes. And weeks? We've only been at sea for 3 days. Just 3? They felt like months to me, Naruto groaned. However, he smiled once the island started to become more visible. Even if the journey wasn't that long, there wasn't many things to do aboard. The only training they could do was senjutsu, and even that became old really fast. And even if they did have each other to make themselves company, they did miss their other friends and significant others. Fu deployed her wings as she hopped onto the railway. I want to see the island now. However, Hiruzen grabbed her by the arm and forced her to step down. The old Hokage also thanked the gods above for not making the girl fly with him grabbing her. Don't get separated from the group, young Fu. Stay with each other at all times. This time, it was Fu who groaned and rolled her eyes. Whatever you say, Gramps. Of the bunch we got saddled with, you're the least fun of all. Hiruzen sighed in return. So I wouldn't be a glorified babysitter, would I, Jiraiya? The old Hokage thought in exasperation. Might as well stayed of Konoha. If I had to take care of a couple of impatient kids, at least they could be my grandkids. And my grandkids don't have the power of a Kage. Hiruzen gathered the rest of the escort team, Yugao, Heiei, Choza, and Tenzo, just as the ship docked at a small port, where they were greeted by a group of Kyumo ninjas. Their apparent leader was a man with spiky brown hair, small eyes, and a green mark running down the bridge of his nose. Welcome, Konoha ninjas, to Genbu Island, the Kyumo ninja said. My name is Motoi, and I'm in charge of the ninjas that protect and take care of this place. Being the group leader, Sarutobi took a step forward. Greeting, Motoi-san. My name is Hiruzen Sarutobi. My companions are Heiei Gecko, Yugao Yuzuki, Choza Akimichi, and Tenzo. He then motioned to Naruto and Fu. And these two youngsters are Naruto Uzumaki and Fu. They're the Jinchuriki that came here for training. I see. Yeah, we received a message from Reikage-sama. Fortunately, Killer B-san arrived the day before you did, meaning that you can start your training immediately. Awesome, both Naruto and Fu cheered in unison, as they shared a high five, which caused Naruto to nurse his hand in pain, since Fu didn't measure her strength. This island is the home to many large and potentially dangerous animals. But if you follow the established paths and don't bother them, they should leave you in peace, Motoi warned them. The next moment, Fu felt a lot of eyes staring at her. What? Why are you looking at me? It's not that Fu was interrupted when several massive butterflies flew above her. Oh my god, look at the size of those butterflies. I have to see them closer. Even if she had deployed her wings, both Choza and Heiei grabbed her by the shoulders, forcing her to remain ground-bound. Come on, girl. What did Hokage-sama told you about not flying on your own? Choza asked, as he struggled against the muscular girl. Eventually, Fu gave up and crossed her arms in annoyance. Party pooper, that girl is quite an excitable one, isn't she? Motoi said with a chuckle. You have no idea, Tenzo said, letting out a weary sigh. I think she drove the ship's entire crew crazy, Yugao added. Don't worry. She will put all that young energy to good use once the training begins. Anyway, let's get going, time is of essence, or so I was told, Motoi said, as he turned around and started to walk into the jungle. The Konoha and Kyumo ninjas started to follow his lead as well. Killer B-san is now resting at his house on the island. We'll take you to him. The large group trekked through the lush jungle that covered most of the island. Fortunately, there were clear pathways that could be used for easy traversing, no doubt man-made. On top of the large trees and mushrooms that reminded Naruto of Mount Mayaboku, there were also extremely large animals. The butterflies that they saw before it was only a prelude of what they would see, as there were many giant lizards, frogs, parrots, toucans, sloths, and even tigers and gorillas. WTH animals of that size, at least we won't risk dying of starvation if we have to stay here for long, Chose quipped. However, the fact that none of the animals seemed perturbed by the newcomers must mean that they must be used to the humans' presence. So, Tenzo began, as he walked beside Motoi. Is this place safe for Naruto and Fu? I'm talking about external threats. Trust me, there's no way Akatsuki will find this place, Motoi confidently assured the wood release user. This is Kumo's safest place so far. How can you be so sure? Hiruzen interjected, catching wind of the conversation. Akatsuki has proved in the past to be extremely effective at finding Jinchuriki. Because Genbu isn't a normal island, but a massive turtle, Motoi said, much to the two Konoha ninjas' shock. Every day we move Genbu to a different location to avoid detection. And that before considering that the enemy doesn't even know such creature exists. If you guys had such a safe place from the very beginning, why didn't you send your Jinchuriki here? Hiruzen asked. Well, Killer Bee doesn't take kindly to being confined to a single place, so we need to watch him constantly, Motoi explained. This place has plenty of spots that Killer Bee could use to fool us, and then escape into the mainland. That's why the Valley of Cloud and Lightning was deemed a better place to keep Bee there. And aren't you afraid that Bee might try to leave again? Hiruzen asked. I find that unlikely, not after the massive dressing down Raikage-sama gave him, Mota said, chuckling a little. Ah, I wish I was there to see it. As the third Hokage and Tenzo talked with Motoi, Naruto, and Fu admired the massive and untamed fauna and flora surrounding them. More specifically, Fu was watching the gigantic ladybugs, beetles, dragonflies, and other large insects that flew around them. Boy, Shino would love this place, Fu stated, as he tried to imagine her boyfriend's reaction to seeing such huge insects. When this is over, I think I'm going to bring him here. I don't think they'll let you, Hayate interceded, before coughing a couple times. From what we've been told, this is some sort of super secret base, and the fact that they let us in is due exceptional circumstances. Ah, poop. Why is that when I find such an amazing place, I won't be able to return or show it to my friends? Fu childishly whined. We do have places like this in Konoha, Yugao, who had been listening to the conversation, decided to chime in. The Forest of Death, for example. The Forest of Death? Naruto asked, joining the conversation as well. Where is that? You've never been in the Forest of Death? Hayate asked. Not even during the Chunin exams? Honey, they didn't use the Forest of Death for the exams the year Hakukuen's team took the exam here, remember? Yugao reminded her husband. Since Sabuza was the proctor, he chose the ship graveyard for the second task. Ah, yes, I do remember now. It was quite the deviation from the usual, Hayate said, before coughing again. He then turned at Naruto and Fu. Anyway, to answer your question, the Forest of Death is Konoha's most dangerous training ground. Is a large and lush forest isolated by metallic fences. The forest's fauna include many giant animals, such as insects, leeches, bears, wolves, snakes, and other predatory beasts, Hayate had to stop to another coughing fit. Her wife noticed that, while he listed the animals living there, Naruto seemed to grow more and more uneasy, while Fu's eyes and smile grew each second. The purplet decided to continue the explanation. Its only safe haven is a single stone tower in the middle. Usually, ANBU and Jonin use that place to train for dangerous missions and hone their survivalist skills, though there are many times when it's used as the staging grounds of the second stage of the Chunin exams. Now I wish our Chunin exams took place there, Fu said, as she beamed when an idea dawned upon her. Oh. Oh. I know where I'm going to take Shino for our next date. The Chunin exams? Isn't that too dangerous for mere genin? Naruto asked. I mean, you yourself said it's a training ground for ANBU and Jonin. Perhaps, but it's a good way to show who's ready for the rank and who isn't, Yuga replied. The fact that there are genin able to overcome the trials the forest throws at them is enough proof of it. And even then, we have many experienced ninjas watching the zone when there are genin to make sure that none of them die to the training ground, Hayate assured Naruto. The only deaths are those caused by ninjas fighting each other. Naruto felt thankful that, as far as he knew, nobody died during his Chunin exams. He was aware that being a ninja meant killing and seeing your friends die, and while Naruto hadn't killed anybody yet, he had seen quite some people dying, or being sent to their deaths, but felt that that was going too far for a mere exam. Still, his thoughts were snapped when he heard Modoi say something that drew his interest. Oh, look at that, we're almost there, the Kumo Jonin stated. The large group found themselves in front of a very strange-looking house. It was made of what appeared to be dark red dried mud, and was split in 3 sections, the middle one being half as tall as the 2 towers to the sides. On top of the front door was the head of an ox with one of its horns severed. Modoi took a step forward, and knocked the door a few times. Killer Bee-san, come out. The other Jinchuriki are here. Modoi said. They didn't have to wait much before the door opened, revealed the famed Jinchuriki of the 8 tails, Killer Bee himself. The moment he did, Naruto and Fu felt something inside them shift. The kind of feeling they experienced when another Jinchuriki was near them. Needless to say, Killer Bee also sensed the other 2-tailed beasts inside the 2 youths. Without needing to ask, the Kumo Jinchuriki walked towards the blonde and the green-haired girl, and scanned them with a critical eye. Or they thought it was critical, it was hard to tell with him wearing those shades all the time. So, you guys are the last 2 Jinchuriki? Can't say I'm impressed. I don't think you can withstand the training, you might end up stressed, Killer Bee rapped, even if his tone was surprisingly solemn. Now, you know you're in front of the great Killer Bee, but I don't know who you are, so start with introductions, don't you agree? Yeah, Naruto uneasily said. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and I'd be honored if you trained me, oh great Killer Bee-sensei. Killer Bee looked at Naruto with a disapproving look, shaking his head. Wow kid, that was so boring. It's a miracle I'm not snoring. I liked the flattering, you know, but that's not good enough, you're too slow. What? Naruto asked, flabbergasted. What the hell was that? Are you going to train me or dash? Quiet, the eccentric Kumo ninja said, before turning at Fu. It was weird for the Taki ninja to be near somebody she didn't tower over. Now let's hear you, girly, let's hope you don't make me any more surly. Fu cleared her throat, before adopting what appeared to be a dancing stance. My name is Fu, old man, try to keep up with me if you can. Taki was my home, but it got wrecked, yet I have many friends I seek to protect. So you better teach me how to tame my beast, or next time instead of my mouth I'll convince you with my fists. There was a moment of deafening silence after she finished her impromptu rap session. Naruto leaned towards her. What the hell are you doing? He whispered into her ear. I'm trying to communicate in his native dialect, Fu whispered back. It's a bit hard to understand him, but I believe this is some kind of test. Then, much to everybody's surprise, Killer Bee nodded and smiled. You get it, girl, you're on a roll. Your rhymes may need some work, but they do have soul. Yay! Fu cheered, pumping her fist. However, you also need to learn how to properly greet. Extend your fist, let our thoughts meet, Killer Bee said, extending his fist at Fu. Fu did so, and suddenly, a wave of foreign emotions washed upon her, as if their chakra had been connected. She deduced the link of the tailed beasts had to do with it. Just like I guessed, you're a pretty swell girl, your chakra and your heart shine like pearls. B finally broke contact, and extended his fist at Naruto. Now you, boy. Unsure, Naruto did so, and once again, he experienced a brief but intense connection to the bizarre Jinchuriki, and for that moment, he didn't look so bizarre anymore. Unlike the previous assessment, Killer Bee nodded and smiled. Alright boy, your greetings may suck, but your heart doesn't lie. You will reach high, today's your day of luck. So does that mean that you'll train us? Naruto asked. Indeed. Alright, enough chit-chat, time to train, let's head to the waterfalls, don't make me say it again. Meanwhile, the stunned Konoha ninjas watched the display, not understanding what was going on. What did just happen? Hey-8 asked. Don't worry, Killer Bee-san has agreed to train the Jinchuriki, Modoi reassured them. Now, we need to go where all Jinchuriki begin their training, at the Waterfall of Truth. Konoha meanwhile, back at the village, while the Hokage and the rest of the higher echelons prepared for war, the lower-ranked ninjas decided to spend the few days they would have before all hell let loose and the Fourth Ninja War began. Some of those ninjas were the kunoichi of the group unofficially known as the Konoha 15, formed by the teams that graduated from Naruto and Hinata's class, plus Guy's close combat squad. Later additions to that group were Rin Noara and Fu, though the latter wasn't there at the moment. And then, another addition in the form of Yakumo Kurama, whom, per Kurenai's request, was introduced to the group by Hinata. Yakumo already got used to Hinata during the time they spent in the hot springs. Hinata was a very approachable person after all, but it would take some time for the rest of the girls to warm up to her. Rin and Ino were the most receptive, especially the latter, given that she's also close to an ex-Root agent, though sadly the same couldn't be said of Sakura, Karen, Tenten, and Tamaki. So far, 7 of the 8 kunoichi had been gathered, with only one missing. Where is Hinata? Sakura asked, looking around. She's usually the first one to arrive. Yeah, it's not normal for her to be late, Karen agreed. Hey, cut her some slack, Ino defended her absent friend. Maybe she got caught up with some clan stuff. I became clan head myself recently, and trust me, you have no idea of how much extra work you need to do in order to manage the clan. You don't need to rub in our faces how important you and Hinata are now, Ino, Tenten said, rolling her eyes. Should we be thankful that you find time to spend with us lowly clanless girls? Come on, don't twist my words like that, Ino protested. You know I don't mean dash. Hey, look, Hinata is here, Rin said, interrupting the nascent discussion before it could become more heated. And she isn't alone? What? Sakura asked. Did she bring somebody else? That so soon after Yakumo was left unsaid, but everybody could hear it. And, indeed, Hinata wasn't alone. Walking beside her was a pale-skinned girl with long black hair, tied at the end with a pink ribbon, wearing a dark green tank top and loose blue cargo pants. Who's that girl? Sakura asked, narrowing her eyes in order to see the approaching figure better. Hey, I think I know her, Tamaki said. Isn't she part of Anko-sensei's squad? You know, the one made by former Otogekure ninjas? They were with us at the hot springs. Really? I didn't notice them. Tenten pointed out. Maybe because there were so much people, and they didn't stand out much, Tamaki said with a shrug. But that's definitely her. I believe so, Karen said. And frowned. And why did Hinata is bringing her here? Without asking us first? These clan heads think they can do whatever they want, Tenten said. Don't begin again. Ino protested. Maybe she wants her to have some friends. Honestly, I find that commendable. Besides, from what I heard, they've been helping a lot with the Akatsuki threat, so the least we could do is giving them a chance, don't you think? Heh, that means I'm no longer the only new one to this group. Nice, Yakumo said, smiling a little. Just that moment, Hinata arrived. Hello, girls, Hinata greeted. She decided it was better to address the elephant in the room as far as possible. I'm sure you know her already, but this is Kintsuchi, one of Enko-sensei's students. Hi, the former Odo Kunoichi said, not daring to make eye contact with any of the Konoha girls. I ran into her on my way here, and asked her to join us, Hinata explained, even if she knew it was a lie. It would be too humiliating for the black-haired girl to learn that her sensei arranged such a meeting for her to have more friends. With Yakumo it was different, given her trauma, but in Kin's case, it would feel like too much. I'm sorry for not telling you before, but I thought it would be a good experience for both her and us. No worries. Guess that what's done is done, Sakura said, as she and the rest of the girls started to walk towards the village downtown. Anyway, today's Karen's choice of restaurant, meaning that we'll be eating at that okonomiyaki place again, right? You got a problem with that? Karen defensively fired back. At least it's more refined than your dumplings. Ugh, no more dumplings. Kin suddenly said. Karen looked at her a little startled, before she smiled. See? She knows what I'm talking about, Karen said with a nod. You don't like dumplings, Kin-san? Hinata asked. I used to, but after Anko-sensei took us to eat dumplings so many times, Kin said, shuddering a little. In the end we got sick of them. Of course, none of us had the courage to tell her, so we have to endure and pretend it's our favorite food as well. Anko-san sounds like a though teacher, Rin said. Then again, it shouldn't be surprising. That girl always had a lot of energy and spunk. I'm sure that, regardless of her reputation, she can't be any worse than Gai-sensei, Tenten interjected. If you knew the kind of insane training exercises he makes us to do, does he send giant snakes after you? Kin asked, narrowing her eyes at the brown-haired girl, who flinched. Yeah, I thought so. Giant snakes? Like, seriously? Tamaki asked, just as surprised. And the Forest of Death is her favorite training ground, Kin continued. A month before the Chunin exams at Tsuna, she dropped us in the middle of the Forest of Death, and told us that we needed to survive for 2 weeks there, and that if we did, we would be ready for the exams. Yikes, Ino replied. I don't think I'm going to complain about Asuma-sensei's training again, I can relate to that, Yakumo intervened. Danzo's training was also brutal. Though even if he helped me control my bloodline limit, I can tell he wasn't doing it out of the goodness of his heart. Danzo, I remember that name mentioned quite a few times when I was in Odo, Kin said, recalling past events. So, he was your sensei? I wouldn't call him that, Yakumo corrected. Let's say he was a man who wanted to have his own army of drones loyal to him rather than to the Hokage. He couldn't be a decent person if Orochimaru was allied with him, Kin concluded. And what happened then? Did you pass the Chunin exams? Rin asked, putting the conversation back in track. Yes, Kin admitted, almost reluctant to give her sadistic teacher credit. We had such a hard time there, that the exam in comparison felt easy. We breezed through all the tests like they were nothing, and the 3 of us got a promotion. Anko-sensei might be a harsh teacher, but given your testimony, it's obvious that her methods do work, Hinata conceded. I remember that you used to work under Mizuki when you were Odo ninjas. Is Anko-sensei better than him? As rare as it sounds she is, Kin admitted once again. Anko-sensei is like, super sadistic. She will sick several giant snakes at us while laughing and cracking jokes about how we're going to be eaten, yet at the same time she seems to care about us. Every day we always learn something new with her, and over the months her training didn't feel so rough. Because you got used to it, Tenten pointed out. It was the same with Gai-sensei. Running several laps around the village with Waze was like torture at first. Sakura and Hinata, going through the same training even if only temporarily, nodded empathically. Yet it becomes a little easier every day, and in the end you're surprised that you used to struggle to begin with. That signifies that you're getting stronger, Ino added. Exactly, Kin admitted once again. Mizuki was nowhere near as harsh as Enko, yet I don't think we got very strong under him. I didn't see it at the time, but now I realize that he treated us more like his minions rather than his students. Had he given you proper training, I wouldn't have been able to beat all three of you by myself, Hinata added. Lee told me about how he defeated Mizuki, Tenten stated. He confessed that the reason behind his defection from Konoha and theft of the Forbidden Scroll was that he felt that he wasn't becoming as strong as he wished and blamed the village for keeping him down. Given his ego, I believe the guy was afraid that you would end up surpassing him. There's one thing clear, the fact that Mizuki got beaten by a genin that couldn't even use ninjutsu shows that he didn't become much stronger under Orochimaru either, even with a cursed seal, Kin said, before looking at Tenten. No offense to your teammate. None taken. And to be fair, Mizuki wouldn't be the first one to underestimate Lee, Tenten replied. It's amazing how far one can go with taijutsu alone. The conversation continued until they reached the restaurant in question. Karen's favorite, where she and Niji had their first date. Hey, I was thinking, Ino began, as she looked at Kin. Given that Yakumo and Kin are new, they should treat all of us today. You know, as her initiation into the group. What? Kin asked, outraged. You're only going to let me hang out with you if I pay for your food. Yakumo uneasily checked her coin purse. I don't think I have enough money to dash, come on Ino, don't be so cruel. Sakura shouted, interrupting Yakumo, who was a little startled. Yes, that's not a very nice thing to do, Hinata added, nodding as well. Plus, we didn't even make anybody else do that either. Tamaki said. Kidding, kidding. Ino said, raising her hands defensively. It was just a joke, don't kill me. I know we're a lot of people for just two girls to treat all of us. In fact, I was thinking that we could be the ones treating Kin and Yakumo to something nice. You know, as a way to welcome them into the group. That sounds like a better idea, Rin agreed. Plus with how many of us are, we won't have to pay much each. Ino happily chimed, which earned her a few unamused glares, but nobody said anything. Eventually, the girls sat on a large table, ordered their food, and started to eat. In silence at first, but it didn't take long until somebody struck up a conversation. Say, Hinata, Ino, Sakura began. You were in that meeting with the Hokage and the other clan heads. What did you talk about? Or is it something you can't tell us without killing us later? Karen added. Oh, it's nothing you should be too worried about, Ino told them. Hokage-sama told us about the agreement with the other villages, the war, and preparations. The army is going to be split on multiple divisions, some of support and the others being battalions. We spent most of the meeting discussing which ninjas should be on which divisions, Hinata explained. Her eyes rested on Sakura and Karen. For example, you two, as well as Rin-san, will be in the support medical division. Kind of expected, Sakura admitted. Though, you might be temporarily assigned to one of the 5 battalions if need arises, Hinata punctualized. Hokage-sama needs to discuss with the other Kages who are going to be the commanders of each division, but the medical division will more than likely be under Tsunade-sama's lead. What about the rest of us? Tamaki asked, visibly interested. You and the rest of your team have been placed on the 5th division, Hinata told the cat Kunoichi. She then looked at Tenten. And your team is on the 2nd division. Hinata will be in the 3rd division, while I'll be in the 1st, Ino continued. Yakumo is going to be part of the 4th division. Wait, Yakumo is going to fight as well? Karen asked, before looking at the brown-haired girl. No offense. It's not that I think you're weak or anything. But after the whole ordeal with Danzo, that's precisely why I need to fight this war, Yakumo interceded. If it wasn't for me, Danzo would have never been able to steal the Rinnegan. And if that didn't happen, Obito wouldn't have gotten his hands on it. I can't just stay here and not help fix a mess I helped to create. Nobody blames you for that, Yakumo-san, Hinata replied. We're aware you didn't have a choice in your role as Danzo's agent. Even if that wasn't the case, the stakes are way too high for me not to help in any way I can, Yakumo insisted. What about me? Kin asked. Where I'm going to be assigned? Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about you, Ino said, half apologizing. I don't remember your name Kin, the former Odo Kunoichi said, almost in a growl. But I do remember Anko being assigned to the 3rd Division, so you and your teammates will accompany her. That means that we'll fight together, Kin-san, Hinata said with a friendly smile. If anything, I know I'll be safe as long as I stick close to you, Kin deadpanned, as she continued eating her food. Man, I'm the only one here on the 5th Division, Tamaki complained, as she chewed her food slowly. I wish I got to be with any of you guys. Sorry. The consensus between the Kages was to make all divisions as balanced as possible, so all of them could stand on their feet, Hinata explained Tamaki. At the very least, you will be with your sensei and teammates. Where is Sasuke-kun assigned? Sakura asked. She noticed that she and Karen were on the medical division, but there was no mention of the medical squad's only male member. Sasuke-san is on the 2nd Division, alongside his older brother, Hinata answered. Sakura looked visibly dejected. Guess we'll have to trust ninjas from foreign villages to cover our backs. We're allies with Suna and Kiri, but even if I have worked with Kumo ninjas, I still can't bring myself to trust them immediately. And that goes double for IWA ninjas. The rest of the girls agreed energically. The rest except Kin. Well, now you'll understand a little of what I felt during my first months in Konoha, Kin interjected. 6 pair of eyes turned at her, with varying shades of incredulity. Sure, I know getting used to another village is a bit hard at first, but it couldn't be that bad, right? Ino asked, a bit incredulous. Konoha is a very welcoming place. Eventually, I did learn to see it that way, Kin said, as a scowl developed on her face. But it took me some time to reach there. Come on, it couldn't have been that bad, Tamaki interceded. Fu also came to live here from Taki, and while she misses her home, she adapted to us almost perfectly. In that case, let me share with you something about myself so you can understand my point of view better, Kin began, her tone cold as ice. Imagine that you're a girl who is born in the slums of the capital of the Land of Fire. Your family doesn't earn much, but you get by. Then, one day your father gets murdered on his way back home from work for a few bills. This forces your mom to take a second job, since her actual job just doesn't cut it, and she has a little girl to feed. Then, your mom is so overworked, she literally dies of exhaustion, leaving you alone. The mood turned much darker. Nobody dared to say a word. Some of the girls, like Ino or Rin, placed their hands over their mouths in horror. Still, nobody dares to interrupt the story. For many months, you're forced to steal and dig in the trash just to have something to eat, Kin continued. But you aren't a very good thief, so you're caught many times, and find yourself at the receiving end of many beatings from uncaring adults. You even start to wonder doing prostitution for a living. This drew a collective gasp from the rest of the group. Still, Kin wasn't done. Then, one day, after stealing a loaf of bread and evading pursuers, you're found by a man. A creepy-looking man with unnerving eyes, but he doesn't look at you as if you were the scum of the earth. You have a lot of talent, girl. Have you ever thought in being a ninja? Join me, and I'll train you to bring out your potential. All I ask is for your loyalty, he says. With nothing to lose, you follow that man, and your training begins. It's rough and harsh, and the drill sergeant is merciless and prone to use physical violence, but you eat 3 times a day and sleep on a bed. During your stay there, you also learn who are your enemies you must beat. You heard a name more than any others, Konoha. This is the place where the enemy lives. If a ninja from Konoha sees you, they will try to kill you without question. Konoha is an elitist village ruled by old aristocratic clans that don't give a damn about the common man and want to expand their wealth and power at the expense of everybody else. Hey, that's not true. Ino protested. I know Konoha isn't perfect, but I know that, Kin replied, glaring at the blonde. Now I know that Orochimaru didn't care about me in the slightest and would discard me and the others the moment I was no longer useful. But Orochimaru gave me a chance when nobody else did. He saved me from a fate worse than death. And then, after failing him, I'm captured, brought to the village I was taught was the enemy, and told me that I either join their ranks or rot in a cell. Dosu convinced us to take the Hokage's offer, and I'll always thank him for doing so. But just for a moment, try to imagine being kidnapped by a foreign enemy village, and forced to work there. Would you feel safe there, being surrounded by people you were told wanted nothing but kill you? People you actually fought against. Yikes, Tamaki winced. I'm sorry to hear that. I had no idea your life had been so rough, not even my time at Root was so bad, Yakumo admitted. Enko-sensei hates when we speak of Orochimaru with reverence. She even forced us to stop addressing him as Orochimaru-sama. And given what he did to her, I can understand why, Kin began. But she has never been in our place, so she can't understand why deep down, we will be grateful to Orochimaru for rescuing us from the streets, even if he did so for his own interests. There was a moment of deafening silence, as everybody processed Kin's words. Until that point, many of them saw the world in black and white, Konoha, and its enemies who wanted to see it destroyed, like Orochimaru. But while Orochimaru's evil was undeniable, it made them question about the ninjas that served him. Did they have an awful life, and joined the Sannin in order to escape that living hell? In that case, they found themselves unable to blame them for taking such decision. Well, I want you to know that you're among friends here, Hinata said, as she subtly and quickly shot a glare at the girls who were clearly unhappy with her bringing new girls. If you ever need something, we will help you without question, and without asking you anything back. Yeah, we people of Konoha take care of each other, Ino added. Then, for the first time in the afternoon, Kin cracked a smile. I thank you, she said, before blushing a little and averting her gaze. Well, this is it. What do you think? Far from where the girls were having lunch, the entire Uchiha clan, Shizune included, were standing in front of a large cluster of buildings, a compound, mostly made of wood, but with some stone and concrete on it as well. The windows lacked any glass, and it didn't have any plumbing or electricity yet, but it looked both solid and cozy. It looks pretty nice, Shizune said. When will we be able to move in? The additional reforms may take from a few weeks to a few months, but it should habitable before that, Shursui explained. Good, because that apartment isn't big enough for that many people, Sasuke complained, as he crossed his arms. Unfortunately for Shursui and Shizune, their apartment had been destroyed during the battle against Akatsuki. And thus, they were forced to move back to Itachi and Sasuke's place. And while it was big enough for 3 and even 4 people, it was too small for 4 adults and 2 babies, and they were in need of a new place. Though, rather than moving to another house, Shursui decided that it was time for the Uchiha clan to live together again under the same roof, like they had been in the past. All of them were eager to do so, but it would take some time before they could move for good. But once the war ends, this will be our home, Shursui announced, as he placed an arm around Shizune's shoulders. Together, we will bring the Uchiha clan to new heights. That night, somewhere dark, Hinata opened her eyes, and found herself inside a vast, open palace of dark lavender stone. It was a familiar place, as he had been there once, even if not physically. Besides her was the figure of an old man, somebody she already met before. She realized that this had to be some kind of dream, yet she didn't wake up. Hamura-sama, Hinata greeted the Otsutsuki elder. "Hello, Byakugan princess," the man replied. His voice lacked the warmth it had the last time they spoke. "As you can imagine, this is not a visit of courtesy." "Yes, I know," Hinata said. "Is this because of the war?" "In a way, yes," Hamura said. "Though you won't be part of it. At least not now. There's another place that requires your presence." "What?" "But I can't do that," Hinata said, shaking her head. "It's not right for me to say it, but I'm among the strongest Konoha ninja. Both my and Hanabi-chan's power will be needed to end this as fast as possible." "Your power is needed, indeed. But in order to save this world, you need to travel somewhere else," Hamura explained. "To the moon." "What?" "Do you remember the Otsutsuki Civil War, and how the branch house won it, driving the main house close to extinction?" Hamura asked. They built a weapon of untold power," Hinata said, trying to remember. "Is that weapon in the moon?" Hamura nodded. "Yes. And Tonari plans to use it for this war. You need to travel to the moon and destroy it before he gets the chance. Only one that carries my chakra will be able to destroy it for good." "But how I'm going to go to the moon?" Hinata asked. She doubted her flight would cut it. "The same way I went there for the first time, and how Tonari travels between the moon and the earth, through a portal," Hamura explained. "Talk with the moon acolytes, they should have the same portal I created to travel to the moon." Hinata nodded. "It shall be done, Hamura-sama." And everything turned to black. Next day, Hokage's office Jiraiya and Tsunade were working tirelessly in order to make sure that the village would be in top condition before most of the ninjas left. Missions already approved needed to be complete as far as possible, and they had to organize a defense force with the ninjas that would stay in the village in order to defend it before the bulk of the army would left. "This the list of the Suna ninjas and the division they have been assigned to," Tsunade said, as he placed a folder with many files inside in front of Jiraiya. "Raza worked fast," Jiraiya said, as he began to glance at the list. "What about the others?" "We can expect May's list to be here soon." "I can't tell about Kumo and IWA, thought," Tsunade said. "Though for everybody's sake, I hope they don't take much time with them. Akatsuki could strike at any moment. Still, we didn't have any news of their movements. If they make a move, we will know in no time," Jiraiya reassured Tsunade. "I wouldn't be so sure. During their last attack, they moved a force of 1,000 Zetsus and moon puppets through the land of fire, and we were none the wiser until they attacked. We can't let that happen again." "This time they won't attack the villages," Jiraiya replied. "First, they need to locate the Jinchuriki, and I doubt they will dash." There was a knock in the door. Weird, since Jiraiya wasn't expecting any visits today. Still, if Sumbofi required his attention, then it must be important. "Come in." The door opened, and much to their surprise, Hinata entered the office. The Sannin could tell that she was very worried. Whatever she was going to tell them, they had a feeling they wouldn't like it. "Hokage-sama, Tsunade-sama," Hinata said, making a polite bow to both of them. "I have something to tell you. Yesternight, Hamura-sama appeared to me in a dream, and tasked me with a mission of utmost importance. I'm afraid I won't be able to take part in the war." Their feeling turned out to be accurate. The war hadn't started yet, and they had lost one of their most valuable assets. Turtle Island the day before Hinata had that fateful dream, Naruto and Fu were about to begin their training in order to master their Jinchuriki powers. Killer Bee and Moshio led the group of Konoha and Kumo ninjas towards an impressive waterfall that poured water into a lake. "Here we are," Modoi announced. "The Falls of Truth. On this place, you will take your first step of your training. I can't wait to begin." "What are we supposed to do?" Naruto asked. In order to tame the beasts inside, you must purify your heart, Killer Bee began to rap. If you fail to do so, they will tear you apart. Sit in front of the falls and close your eyes. You will find yourselves in a strange place, your inner darkness will be waiting for you to face. But power won't suffice, you will need to be wise. Understood, ya fools? Sit down and meditate, the waterfall will take us to another world, Fu began. There, our dark selves will be waiting for us. Beat them down, and return. Is that it? Naruto finished. Killer Bee gave them a thumbs up. You got it, pals, you're pretty quick. Now let's begin, and try to be slick. Naruto and Fu nodded. Wordlessly, they walked towards a small isle in the middle of the lake. The two Jinchuriki sat down, adopted the lotus position, and crossed their eyes. After a few seconds, the small island they were sitting on disappeared, and they pummeled down to the abyss that appeared below them. Eh! Naruto screamed. Opening his eyes, he realized he was no longer on Turtle Island, but on some sort of endless black void. Fu was nowhere to be seen, but he couldn't care about the whereabouts of his fellow Jinchuriki. Aha, wayaha. Naruto, wake up, a frantic female voice shouted. A voice he knew really well. Suddenly, Naruto was no longer falling down an endless abyss, but back in his home. More specifically, on his bed. He felt both tired and disoriented. What the? Naruto asked. Naruto, it's okay. Tsunade's voice said in a reassuring tone. It was just a nightmare. A nightmare? Naruto repeated, as his eyes rested on Tsunade. For some reason, his adoptive mother felt alien, strange. There was something about her that unnerved him, something that wasn't right. Once he calmed down, he was able to see where was the problem. Mom, why are your breasts so small? And why are you wearing glasses? Because this Tsunade wasn't the busty woman Naruto was used to see. She had a much smaller bust, and for some reason she was wearing glasses. Said woman frowned, and crossed her arms. First of all, they aren't small, they're average. And your dad loves them, not Tsunade protested. And I always wore glasses. Just what's wrong with you? She shook her head. This is the last time I let you eat that much ramen for dinner. You have nightmares that mess with your head. Anyway, now that you're awake, come down and have some breakfast. You don't want to be late for your team meeting, don't you? And Tsunade turned around and left the room. Just what the hell is this place? Naruto asked. Because it did feel like his home back in Konoha. It was his room, just like he remembered. But like with Tsunade, there was something off. An ever-present feeling that there was something wrong. Naruto's thoughts, however, were interrupted when his stomach growled. Better listen to mom, or whoever that is, and have some breakfast first, Naruto decided, as he got up from the bed, removed his pajamas, put on his usual clothes, and exited his room. As he walked through the familiar yet strange house, Naruto noticed the pictures decorating the walls. Jiraiya, Tsunade, Shizen, Hagane, Kaida, him everything seemed to be in order. Though it didn't take him long to notice that Shizen wasn't like he remembered her, it seemed that Tsunade's lost bust ended up on Shizen instead. Plus her lips were of a brighter shade of red. Weird, given that other than special dates with Shursui, Shizen never uses lipstick. For a brief moment, Naruto hoped Hinata's breasts didn't end up on Sakura's body. Upon reaching the kitchen, he saw Tsunade once again, finishing her own breakfast. Where are Dad and the twins? Naruto asked. Your father left early for the tower, as usual, Tsunade said. Hagane and Kaida have been out for a mission for a couple days, don't you remember that? Ah, yeah, Naruto pretended to remember. For some reason I forgot. Like I said, you ate too much ramen last night, Tsunade said, shaking her head, before placing a bowl of cereals with sliced fruits in front of Naruto. Now eat something healthy for a change. After biting his not mother goodbye, Naruto exited the house and walked into the village. At first glance, everything seemed to be normal. He was half expecting the Hokage monument to be different, but the faces of the 5 Hokages remained the same, yet the feeling of uneasiness persisted. On top of that, he felt a strange pull towards one of the training grounds. Should I go there? The blonde wondered, before shaking his head. No, I should try to investigate this place first, gather some intel, the usual ninja stuff. Also, I need to know if Fu is still here, or if she ended somewhere else. Given that she's from Taki, she might be there right now. He decided to walk towards his team's usual training ground. Hopefully he would find some answers from his sensei and teammates. Leaping from one roof to another, Naruto reached his team's training ground in no time. And fortunately for him, Hinata, Haku and Kurenai were already there. Look, Naruto's finally here. Now we can begin our morning training, the raven-haired woman said. Unlike Tsunade and Shizun, she looked exactly as he remembered her. Something he couldn't say about his fellow teammates. It took Naruto a while to realize that the other boy of the group was indeed Haku. Because he had his hair cut very short, and instead of his usual green and yellow haori with a grass-green sash, Haku was wearing dark blue pants and a sleeveless jacket over pretty much nothing. The jacket was open, leaving his bare chest visible for all. Then there was Hinata. What Naruto first noticed were her eyes. They were still Byakugan instead of Tenseigan. But her eyes were quickly forgotten when Naruto saw the rest of her attire. While she was wearing her usual long lavender and purple jacket, she wore it unzipped. Under said jacket she was wearing nothing but a mesh top that barely covered her large breasts, leaving a good chunk of her midriff bare. Her usual knee-long pants were nowhere to be seen, replaced by extremely short shorts. Lastly, rather than her sandals, she was wearing knee-high boots that left her toes and heels exposed. Yep, wherever he was, this wasn't Konoha. Or at least, the Konoha he was familiar with. Hinata walked towards Naruto with a confident smile, placed her arms around his neck, and planted a kiss on him. Hey there, handsome, Hinata said in a very seductive and sultry tone, one the real Hinata would never use. I was afraid you wouldn't come. What took you so long? Well, you see you weren't seeing another girl, were you? She yelled, as she increased her pressure of her arms around his neck, while her Byakugan flared to life. Because if you let any bitch near you, I'm going to kill you both and . Now, let's not get carried away, Kurenai said in a conciliatory tone, as she helped separate the crazy Hyuga from the scared blonde. Let's use that energy to train, okay? I'm keeping my eyes on you too, you hag, Hinata told Kurenai, as she narrowed her eyes at her. I do know what people say about how little your husband satisfies you, and you aren't going to go all cougar on my man. Geez, this girl is so fucking crazy. I'm so glad my Hinata isn't jealous at all, Naruto thought, as he rubbed his pained neck. He then took another look at her very revealing yet alluring attire. But damn, her choice of clothes is something I can't complain about. Heh, you're truly a brave one for daring to date that girl, Haku said, as he walked towards him. Not that I wouldn't dare to date her either. There's no woman I'm afraid of. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the epitome of masculinity I am. Naruto looked at Haku as if the ice ninja had grown a second head. The look was already throwing his off, but that was easy to ignore compared to the personality switch. Epitome of masculinity? Naruto dumbly repeated. Haku's previous confidence crumbled like a castle made of paper, replaced by sheer terror and insecurity. What? Why did you say that? Don't you think I'm manly? The ice ninja panicked. Is my hair getting too long again? It's my clothes. I know I'm a bit too scrawny, but muscle takes some time to build. Whoa, calm down, pal. Naruto said, placing his hands on his panicking teammate's shoulders, as he tried to think something reassuring. You look very manly indeed. In fact, if you looked like a girl, Hinata wouldn't allow you to be part of the team because she'd be jealous I left her for you. Haku looked at Naruto into the eyes, before he finally relaxed. Of course, you're right. How can anybody mistake me for a girl? H-Jichen. Haku grunted, as he flexed his non-existent biceps. Okay, enough chattering, let's get to training already. If we keep wasting time, we won't train until the sun sets, Kurenai said, clapping her hands twice to draw attention. At the very least Kurenai-sensei still looks normal, Naruto thought, knowing that he was tempting fate. The training turned out to be normal enough. At least, normal compared to what was fearing it would be. Hinata and Haku, besting their new personalities, employed a fighting style far more aggressive than their real-life counterparts. Still, they also proved to be comparatively weaker than the real ones. The fact that Hinata didn't have a Tensigen was rather noticeable when they clashed against each other. Wind release, cyclone vortex. Naruto cast an horizontal tornado that swallowed both Hinata and Haku, before violently expelling them against the ground. Ouch, that hurt so much, Hinata complained, as she struggled to get back, before a creepy wide smile formed in his face. Oh Naruto-kun, you're so strong. That's why I like you so much. I'm pretty strong too. Haku quickly protested, as he got back on his feet as well. He started to make hand seals. Let's see what you think about this jutsu I developed. Ice release, testosterone blizzard. The temperature dropped suddenly, as a cold breeze started to blow. Snowflakes started to form in the air, as they formed a whirlwind around Naruto. In a few seconds, the blonde was trapped inside a freezing tornado that covered the grassy ground around it in frost and snow. Let the manly embrace of my ice ninjutsu freeze you. Haku boasted, before his brain registered what he just said. Wait, manly embrace? No, that doesn't sound wind release, cyclone shockwave. Another tornado emerged from inside the first tornado Haku had summoned, undoing it and dispelling all the frost and snow. The tornado quickly expanded outwards in every direction, forcing Hinata and Haku to jump back. Look at the power of that wind jutsu, Hinata swooned. That's my Naruto. Okay, I've seen enough, Kurenai said, interrupting the match, as she walked between her students. I don't remember you being that strong, Naruto. It seems that you've been training a lot on your own. Hee, yeah, you know me. I love to train, Naruto said, chuckling awkwardly as he rubbed the back of his head. Kurenai then turned at the other two members of her team. That means that you two should step up your training as well so you can shorten the gap a little. It's not good for a team if there's a big disparity between the members' skill and power. Yes, Kurenai-sensei, Hinata and Haku replied. Meet me after lunch, and we'll go and see if there's a mission suited for us today, Kurenai said, before leaping away, leaving the trio of teens alone. Not far away from there, while Naruto had decided to check this weird version of Konoha first, the blonde was somebody who could be on multiple places at once, so once he finished his training session with his not teammates, he created a shadow clone and sent it to follow that pulling feeling while the real one went to have lunch. After a few minutes of jumping from one roof to another, and some running through the grass of a few training grounds, he reached the place. In front of Naruto was a massive forest, walled by several fences, and a rather ominous warning sign. It said, Training Ground 44. The Forest of Death. Access to this training ground is forbidden unless explicitly allowed by the Hokage. Geez, I know Heiei and Yugao said that this place is dangerous, but come on, it is that bad? Naruto wondered aloud. Anyway, I'd better go and check what's so important. Yikes. Naruto jumped back startled, as a couple kunai landed beside his feet. Shortly after that, a paid of Konoha ninjas Naruto didn't know landed in front of him. I'm sorry, Naruto-san, but access to this training ground is strictly forbidden, the first ninja said, as he pointed to the warning sign. I'm not even Naruto, but a shadow clone, Naruto said. Regardless of how dangerous that forest is, nothing of value will be lost if I get killed. I'm sorry, but our orders are strict. Nobody, clone or not, is allowed to enter, the other ninja said. I'm sure you won't have any trouble getting the Hokage's permission to send a clone there. While the Naruto clone was sure he could beat those ninjas, they didn't look to be higher than Chunin. He decided it was probably better not to do something so drastic so soon. So he instead opted to turn around and walk away. I'll be back, the clone said. He. The clone didn't get too far before somebody called him. They weren't those obstructive guards, but a girl, and the shout came from above. Looking up, the blonde smiled upon seeing Fu flying down towards him. She landed in front of him with a thud, raising a small cloud of dust when her feet hit the ground. Hey, Fu! Naruto greeted her, smiling widely. You're the real Fu, right? Technically, I'm a shadow clone, but yeah, I'm the same Fu from our world, the green-haired girl explained. The real one is with Shino and the others. Or weird people who look like them. This Shino speaks non-stop. He never shuts up. He talks constantly, never letting others speak. He goes on and on and on, and he will sometimes change topic mid-conversation, to top it off. By the way, on my way here, I saw an amazing pair of white boots that were not too expensive. Do you think there will be in the same store in the real Konoha when we return? I'm not a boot person, but I can imagine how horrible being near this Shino can be, Naruto deadpanned, but let out a light-hearted chuckle. But I feel you. If you only met Hinata and Haku. One of the things I liked about Shino is that he was somebody who knew how to listen, you know? Now I can never talk, Fu complained, as her posture became slumped. It totally messes our dynamic. Man, this waterfall of truth has one mean sense of humor. Anyway, I guess you send a clone here because of a sensation that pulled you constantly? Naruto guessed. Fu nodded vigorously. I guess that, whatever we need to face, it's hiding inside the forest of death. However, it's guarded and the sentries won't allow us to pass unless we have permission from my dad. Guess we'll have to meet him, Fu concluded. Though not now. The real me is going to eat with Shino and the others. I believe the real me will eat with this team as well, as I often do after normal trainings, Naruto asked. Say, where are you going? Yakiniku-Q, alright, I'll convince my teammates to go there, so we can stay in touch, Naruto decided. Fu nodded in agreement. Alright. See you soon. Both clones disappeared, transferring their memories to the originals. Yakiniku-Q, both Naruto and Fu's teams were the first ones to arrive at the restaurant. Once there, Naruto could also appreciate the differences between Kakashi's animal squad from this bizarre reality and the real world. Before Kiba was slammed against a tree. Our training has been pretty good. Kiba and Tamaki didn't fight as much as they usually do, and guess what? When Kiba smashed his face against that tree, it broke its bark, and I managed to find several green beetles lurking underneath. Did you know that green beetles are extremely rare in the land of fire? And speaking of rare, I hope that this time they don't burn my order, since I only like medium, just like Fu said, Shino would never shut up. Both his teammates and girlfriend tried to ignore him as he droned on various topics, but he didn't get the hint. Godmit, shut up already. Hinata screamed, much to everybody's shock. Not that the aggressive Hyuga cared. Next time you open your mouth and it's not because somebody talked to you first, I'll rip your vocal cords and shove them where the sun don't shine. You got that, bug boy. Shino whimpered something inaudible, as he nodded energically. Despite the display, Naruto could tell by their body language that the rest were thankful for Hinata's intervention. Naruto included, even if he felt kind OPF bad for Shino. I don't know why you wanted us to eat without former classmates, Hinata said. She then leaned against Naruto, and cooed, next time, let's eat the two of us alone. It will more romantic. Damn, her personality is scary, but how she goes from murderous rage to romantic mood is even more unnerving, Naruto said, trying to suppress a shiver. Well, I do think that multiple dates can be romantic, don't you think, my little kitty? Tamaki asked Kiba in a sickeningly sweet tone. Of course, my love. After all of us here has a mate, so nobody will left out, Kiba replied in the same overly mushy tone. While they talked and waited for the others to arrive, Naruto could also tell that Kiba and Tamaki weren't the same people he once knew. The fastest way to put it was that they have switched personalities, or more specifically, tastes when it comes to animals. It seemed that Kiba hated dogs and was a cat lover, evidenced by his forehead protector, which he added a pair of fake cat ears, while Tamaki hated cats and loved dogs. In fact, Kiba had given Akamaru to Tamaki when they were in the academy, and Tamaki in return allowed Kiba to sign her family's cat summoning contract. All this led them to become a loving couple, as opposed to the real Kiba and Tamaki's constant bickering fueled by a feeling of unresolved sexual tension that was funny at first but ended up being kind of annoying over time. The door of the restaurant opened, and a new trio of teens entered. It was Shizen's medical squad, and just like with his teammates in Team Kakashi, they were also changed. While Sasuke and Sakura were wearing different clothes, Sasuke's style was far more casual and relaxed, which didn't fit him in the slightest. Karen was the one sporting the biggest change. She was wearing a black leather jacket over a black shirt, a black skirt, a black studded belt, and black knee-high boots. Her hair had several dark purple streaks. "Hello there, ladies, your man Sasuke is here," Sasuke said, winking at Hinata, Tamaki, and Fu in a very un-Sasuke way. "You don't need to fight for me, there's enough Sasuke for everybody." "Okay, that has to be the weirdest shit I've seen so far," Naruto threw, cringing at the Uchiha's ladies' man act. "Don't begin," Sakura chastised. "You know, if you dedicated half the time you spend trying to get on every girl's pants to become a better ninja, you would be Jonin already. Come on, you need to relax a little and enjoy the finer pleasures of life," Sasuke said, as he tried to put an arm around Sakura, which she quickly pushed away. "If you weren't so obsessed with training and being a better ninja so much, people would like you better." "Ugh, listen, just drop it already, and let's try to eat in peace," Sakura said. "There's no peace in such a place of death and blood like this one," Karen grimly said. "A ninja village?" Naruto asked, a bit uneasy. "A restaurant that serves processed meat," Karen explained. "Do you know that cows and pigs are force-fed untold amount of food laced with chemicals in order to fatten them, before being sent to a slaughterhouse, when they're not just killed, but dismembered, their parts being scattered around the world so we humans can consume them. Their life is suffering, we feed of their suffering, and they're denied the rest of a peaceful death. And this place is filled with the souls of the slaughtered pigs and calves that have to watch how we eat their corpses in horror. If you listen closely, you can hear their anguished cries of agony. So I take that you aren't going to order any meat?" Naruto guessed. "Hell no. I love meat," Karen replied back, sounding more energetic. As the three members of the medical squad took their seats and engaged in some light conversation with those already there, they were followed by another team, Asuma's tactical squad. And like the previous teams, one could tell these were different versions of the Ino Shikacho Naruto and Fu knew. While Shikamaru looked the same, Choji was far more fit and muscular, and his eyes reflected iron-hard determination, a far cry from the carefree and easygoing junk food lover. Meanwhile, Ino dressed in a more conservative fashion than her real-world counterpart, and while she kept her iconic ponytail, she tied it at the bottom of her hair, as opposed to top. Her body language and the way she carried herself, her posture was droopy, she was folding her arms and was averting eye contact, suggested a meek and shy personality. "Why did you drag me to this place?" Choji complained. "You know I hate the food that's served here." "It's not just for the food, but all our friends are here," Shikamaru said. "Why do you have to act as if you're better than everybody else?" "I'm not acting like I'm better than anybody else, I just expressed my dislike of this restaurant," Choji insisted. "You know, your inferiority complex can be quite grating at times." Who are you calling inferior? Now, let's not fight, okay? Ino softly asked, placing a hand on each of the boys' shoulder. All of our friends are here, let's try to have a good time. This seemed to have a calming effect on her two male teammates. Still, that display told Naruto and Fu everything they needed to know about Asuma's students from this weird reality. At the point, Sasuke appeared before Ino almost as if he had used the body flicker. A rose appeared in his hand as he presented it to the blonde girl as a gift. Ah, my dear Ino, you always know what to say to diffuse a problem, Sasuke said, trying to sound as seductive as possible. I know that behind such shy personality lies a woman of iron. Thank you, Sasuke-kun, Ino muttered, as she backed from the Uchiha invading her personal space. Hey, back off, buddy, don't you see you're making her uncomfortable? Shikamaru said, forcibly pushing Sasuke away from her. You think that just because you're an Uchiha everybody should worship and fawn you? I can't stand you geniuses. Come on, I wasn't Sasuke tried to protest, but he was interrupted. Sasuke, stop embarrassing yourself, and by extension, Karen and get back on your goddamn seat, Sakura threatened, her voice hard as steel. And then they'll ask me why I hate coming here, Choji grumbled under his breath, as he and his team took a seat. A few minutes later, the last team of the Konoha 15 arrived, Guy's close combat squad. While Niji and Lee looked like their normal selves, Tenten was wearing white and blue robes that gave her a somewhat saintly appearance, and her body language gave Naruto and Fu the impression of somebody that had reached some sort of spiritual enlightenment. Even if on the outside they did look like usual, the finer details also revealed changes on Niji and Rock Lee. Niji's expression was unnerving, almost perverse, predatory. Meanwhile, Rock Lee displayed none of his usual youthful energy, and he moved as if the very act of walking required a massive effort. Which kinda reminded Naruto of Shikamaru. Tenten-chan. Haku jumped upon seeing his girlfriend, rushed towards her, and gave her a very passionate kiss. Hey everybody, my girlfriend is here. Yeah, I have a girlfriend. And I wouldn't if I wasn't so manly. Now, Haku-kun, we talked about this, didn't we? Tenten said in a mildly chastising but very gentle tone. If you let your insecurities rule your life, you shall never be happy. You need to learn to look inside, and find your inner beauty and strength. Which is what I did. Why yeah, sorry, Tenten-chan, Haku replied, rubbing the back of his head. His enthusiasm didn't disappear, though. Come on, sit beside me. While Tenten sat beside Haku as the latter requested, Lee and Niji sat beside her as well. Naruto wondered why Niji didn't sit alongside Karen, as he often did. Maybe they weren't a couple in this bizarre reality. So, tell me, how was your day? You've been training, yes? Haku asked. I've been training in my medical arts. Because why harm, when you can heal? It's much more rewarding, Tenten replied. Naruto raised an eyebrow. It's not that the real Tenten loved to bath in the blood of her enemies, but she was no stranger to violence, given her passion for weapons. Tenten continued, my teammates haven't trained either. Lee has been all the time sleeping under a tree, and I bet Niji has been using his Byakugan to watch other girls' underwear. Yep, that explains why Niji and Karen aren't together, Naruto thought. Tenten, you goddamn tattletale. Why do you have to tell them that? Niji protested, before realizing what he just said. I mean how do you know I was peeping on girls? You were focused on your book all the time, you couldn't tell what I was doing. You were standing in the same spot for 2 hours straight, and you chuckled perversely from time to time, Tenten replied. One doesn't need to be a genius to know what you were doing. She's right, Niji, Lee added. Shut up. You were asleep the whole time. How can you tell if she's right or not? Niji protested again. How can you waste the time sleeping like that, Lee? Shikamaru intervened. You should use that time to train so you can soar to new heights. Man, if I only had a quarter of the talent you possess, with my hard work I'll be Konoha's top ninja. Eh, it's too tiresome. Why train when you're as strong as I am? Lee said with a shrug. Though Naruto could tell he wasn't really boasting, his laziness was really irritating Shikamaru. Besides, we're living in an age of peace. It's not like we're going to be needed for any future conflict. That's irrelevant. Hard work is a reward on itself. The satisfaction of achieving something with the sweat of your brow. Of moving forward. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Man, it's like they switched personalities, Naruto thought. I have to agree with Shikamaru, Sakura said. As ninjas, it's our duty to be as strong as possible and fulfill all our latent potential. Not just for the village, but for ourselves as well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any self-worth. Everything else is secondary. That attitude of yours is why you don't have a boyfriend, Sasuke said with a mocking smirk. Didn't you think that maybe I don't want a boyfriend, you sorry excuse of a pickup artist? Sakura fired at the Uchiha. Being single, being in a relationship, why does it matter? Karen gloomily asked. Since all of us will perish sooner or later. It's pointless to care about such trivialities in the face of our impending doom. Come on guys, not again, Ino softly interceded. Let's not ruin this gathering between friends with a fight dash. Given that everybody is talking, can I talk too as well? Shino asked Hinata, breaking his silence. Because I kind of feel a bit left out, and I have plenty of topics to discuss with you guys, as well as many anecdotes to share, such how coming here I saw this guy who, but Hinata wasn't listening to the bugged user, since she was currently hotly screaming at her cousin, and I'm so fucking sick of you right now. You're a goddamn embarrassment to our clan. All you do is prove all that people talking dirty of us right, the angry brunette shouted. Come on, I've been a good guy. You can't believe what my lying teammate is saying. Niji replied. Eventually, the only thing that could be heard in the restaurant was the loud cacophony of the many arguments and discussions happening simultaneously. The only ones not part of the madness were Kiba and Tamaki, who were trading exceedingly sweet and corny compliments, and Ino, who tried, and failed, to stop the chaos. Guys, please, stop, she begged, but was unable to raise her voice any further. Naruto-kun, please, do something. However, when her visible eye drifted towards the spot the blonde Jinchuriki was in, she found it empty. Fu wasn't there either. Taking advantage of the chaos, Naruto and Fu had slipped out of the restaurant unnoticed. The two of them were enjoyed the relative peace and calm of the streets of Konoha, far away from the insanity of their not friends. The two of them were now walking towards the Hokage Tower. Do you think we did wrong leaving like that? Fu asked Naruto. Yeah, Naruto replied. I think we should have waited for the food to arrive first. I'm kind of hungry. Well, that too, but I was wondering if it was right to left our friends behind, Fu specified. They aren't going to be happy when they find out. Hell, Hinata might think you're cheating on her with me. Those aren't our real friends, and that girl wasn't my girlfriend, Naruto stated, shivering a little. Listen, we both know that whatever's inside the forest of death is the inner darkness we have to defeat. We meet Dad, ask him to grant us permission to enter the forest of death, kick the ass of whatever's lurking there, and return to the real world to continue with our training. Her second thoughts dispelled, Fu nodded enthusiastically. Right. Hokage's office. Hey, Dad. Naruto greeted Jiraiya as the two Jinchuriki entered the office. Hello, there Naruto, Fu, Jiraiya greeted them back. Well, what can I do for WHA? The Sannin screamed, as his jaw dropped, while his eyes grew wide, and stared at Fu. Well, what, is something wrong, Hokage-sama? Fu asked, as she scratched her temple. What the hell are you wearing? Don't you have any shame? Jiraiya screamed, as he pulled a blanket out of nowhere, and wrapped it around Fu's body. That's a direct violation of the official Konoha dress code. And don't tell me that you aren't a Konoha ninja. As long as you live here, you'll follow our rules. Dad, have you lost your mind? Naruto asked, but deep down he knew the answer. No, Esuchi lost her mind, dressing in a such provocatively manner. Jiraiya continued shouting. First you allow a laxer dressing code, which leads to making out, and then to premarital sex, and then to teen pregnancy, and I'm not going to stand for any of that. Of course Dad's version of this world would be a total prude, Naruto sourly thought. Better deal with this as soon as possible. Anyway, we came here because we want you to ask something. Okay, I'm all ears, Jiraiya replied. We'd like permission to go to the Forest of Death, it was Fu who answered. We want to test our abilities and strength against the toughest training ground Konoha has to offer. I'm afraid I can't let you go there, Jiraiya replied. What? Come on Dad, we're pretty strong. Naruto protested. Not strong enough for whatever the evil that lurks there, Jiraiya sternly replied. Not even I'm sure I can deal with what lives there. That's what the best thing I can do is to quarantine the area and pray that whatever's there decides to stay there. So far, it has worked. And on top of that, he's a fucking coward. Yep, definitely not my dad, Naruto said, repressing the need to shake his head in disappointment. I don't know what made you two think you can take on whatever's there, but I don't want to hear you got even close to that training ground, got it? Jiraiya warned them. Sure thing Dad, Naruto said with a weary sigh. Come on Fu. Wait, that's it? Fu asked. Aren't you going to dash? Dad has been pretty clear on the issue. Let's go, Naruto insight, pulling the muscular girl by the arm. Fu complied and let herself be dragged out of the office. Naruto quickly dragged Fu out of the tower, the green-haired girl pulling her arm away until Naruto finally released it. It's not like you to give up so easily, Fu pointed out, as the two Jinchuriki exited the tower and walked back into the streets of Konoha. What do we do now? Who said that I was giving up? Naruto replied with a cheeky grin. We're going to go into the Forest of Death, with or without his permission. But how? That place is closely guarded, Fu replied. Well, thankfully, one of us can grow wings on her back and is strong enough to carry at least one person while flying, Naruto explained. Really? You learned to fly too? How? Fu excitedly asked. Upon seeing Naruto's unamused stare, she realized of something. Oh, you were talking about me. I see. Still, even if I smuggle us into the forest through air, the guards are going to see us and warn the Hokage. Not if we infiltrate at night, Naruto said. The visibility will be much lower by then. In fact, may use this strategy to infiltrate the Crimson Citadel during the Kurogakure Civil War. It worked back then, and it will work now. If you say so. Forest of Death, that night just like Naruto said, their infiltration went without a hitch. Under the shadows of the night, none of the guards placed around the training ground could see or even heard Fu as she entered into the Forbidden Forest. So, this is the Palsy. The Forest of Death, Naruto said, looking around. He couldn't see anything but the massive trees surrounding him, since the dim light provided by the half-moon wasn't enough to see their surroundings with clarity. Man, I wish Hinataheim was here. She could guide us with her Tensigen. Shino's bugs are pretty good for exploring as well as locating foes, Fu said, looking around, narrowing his eyes as she tried to discern her surroundings. I can hear many creatures lurking around, but I can't tell what they are. Other than that they're big. And hungry. We won't have to worry about those, Naruto reassured her. With our power, wild beasts are no longer a threat, no matter how big they are. All we need to do is find whatever's the representation of our darkness, and beat them. And I guess that's something we have to do on our own, Fu concluded. She pointed in a seemingly random direction. That way? Yeah, I felt being pulled towards there as well, Naruto confirmed with a nod. Let's go. Naruto leaped to a nearby tree branch and started to head into said direction, jumping from one branch to another. Fu was following him from behind, flying. While they saw some giant animals on their way, such as giant bears, snakes, or insects, it seemed they didn't feel like starting a fight with them. I see some light coming head on, Fu observed. Me too. Guess that must be the place we need to reach, Naruto said. The two Jinchuriki reached a very large clearing surrounded by lit torches, which provided some nice illumination to the otherwise extremely dark forest. Naruto and Fu landed in the middle of the clearing. The moment their feet touched the ground, a voice was heard. "So, you finally came," a male voice said, which was deep and unsettling. "We were getting tired of waiting," a female voice said. This one was also deep, but also snide. "Who's there? Show yourselves," Naruto demanded. "Seems that he's an impatient one, isn't he?" the male voice asked. "Yes. One might think he was the one doing all the waiting," the female voice said. "But we better do what he says. There's no need of delaying this any longer." Two more figures landed in front of Naruto and Fu. The first one was wearing a mask resembling a fox that obscured his face, though his spiky black hair was visible. His body was covered by a long, dark blue robe with a faded gray fur collar. The second figure was also wearing a mask, this one modeled after an insect. Naruto and Fu could tell it was a woman given her body shape. She was wearing a black sleeveless top, short black pants, shoulder-length black gloves, knee-length black leather boots, and a tattered cape that reached her rear. She was tall and had a muscular build, not unlike Fu. "So, if I'm to guess, you're our respective inner darkness, right?" Naruto asked. The two figures removed their masks, revealing their faces, which were identical to Naruto and Fu, except that their hair was black and their eyes were glowing red. "Not quite," Dark Naruto explained. "We're your true selves. What you think it's your identity is nothing but a mask, no different from this," Dark Fu said, holding her mask for added emphasis, before lazily tossing it away. "We're you, free of the layers of lies you created around yourselves." "Whatever you say, guys," Naruto said, as he pulled out and activated his wind sword, producing a blade of white wind chakra. "Quite an impatient one indeed," Dark Naruto said, mimicking the real one's actions, except his wind sword was dark purple instead of white. "Fine by me. I'm ready for some action." Naruto and Dark Naruto charged at each other, their wind swords clashing when they met in the middle, producing a small shower of sparks. "Let me guess," Naruto said, grinning confidently. "You're going to tell me how I can't defeat you since you're as strong as I am." "No. I'm much stronger than you," Dark Naruto said, before pushing Naruto's wind sword aside and delivering a brutal kick to his chest, sending the blonde flying. "Though you got the part about losing right, Naruto," Fu shouted, as she flew to aid her fellow Jinchuriki. However, Dark Fu got in the way, forcing the green-haired girl to stop. "Let the boys have their fun," Dark Fu casually said. "Besides, you can't afford to worry about others given the current situation. You asked for it," Fu angrily said. The Taki Jinchuriki and her dark side engaged in a fast-paced exchange of punches and kicks. Each hit that connected produced a thunderclap followed by a shockwave. The two girls started to gain altitude as their brutal duel became fiercer. Their physical clash came to an end when their fists connected with each other's in a particularly brutal way, pushing them backwards. Both Fu and her dark analog weaved the same sequence of seals. Wind release, great breakthrough. The two of them blew a powerful gust of wind at each other. However, both opposing gales carried the same power, and neither was able to overpower the other. Fu tried a different jutsu, but Dark Fu copied it as if she had a Sharingan. Water release, water wall, both of them expelled a massive torrent of water from their mouths, but just like their previous attacks, it failed to win the other. Fu gritted her teeth in anger, while Dark Fu smiled smugly. Like I said before, I'm your true self, Dark Fu began. That means that not only do I know all your fighting moves, tactics, jutsu, and the like, but I know exactly what you're going to do, and prepare accordingly. If that's true, then this won't surprise you, Fu said, as she unslung her red backpack and opened it, revealing a rather large storage scroll. Unsealing its contents, a gigantic oak log emerged from the scroll. The green-haired Kunoichi grabbed it with one hand and rested it on her shoulder. I don't see you carrying a similar scroll, so I guess you can't match this, can't you? Dark Fu sneered. A brutish weapon for a brutish girl. I don't need such primitive weapon to match you, false me. While Fu and Dark Fu traded blows above the forest, Naruto and Dark Naruto did the same with wind sword swipes. And just like Fu found, Naruto realized that his evil twin was just as skilled as he was, and could counter every move the blonde made flawlessly. Still, Naruto didn't get so far by giving up. Wind release, decapitating wheel. Naruto swung his wind sword in a wide arc multiple times, releasing multiple crescent blades of wind in every direction. However, Dark Naruto was able to either parry or dodge them expertly. All what Naruto's attack accomplished was cutting some tree branches. Pathetic, Dark Naruto sneered, as he regaining his footing and charged forward. With such pitiful display, no wonder you failed to save Utakata and Rashi. Shut up! Naruto shouted, delivering a series of brutal swings at his dark counterpart. Dark Naruto, however, laughed as he parried or dodged all of them expertly. What's wrong? Did I hit a nerve? The black-haired young man smirked at Naruto, making the Jinchuriki even angrier. Look at that, letting yourself getting carried away by your emotions. You won't beat me like that. How about this, then? Naruto said, as he jumped backwards while pulling a kunai. Shadow Clone Kunai Jutsu. Naruto tossed a kunai at his evil doppelganger, before making a hand seal, turning the lone weapon into almost 100. This time, Dark Naruto didn't make any kind cutting remark, but several hand seals, in order to answer the rain of razor steel. Wind release, cyclone shockwave. A tornado formed around Dark Naruto, and started to expand outwards, pushing the incoming storm of kunai away in every direction. When the tornado ceased, there were a multitude of kunai scattered around the red-eyed copy, while their intended target was unharmed. Such a basic attack. How long are you going to keep this charade up, and accept reality? Dark Naruto mocked. Naruto didn't acknowledge his evil counterpart's words. He merely smirked and made a hand seal. Sealing art, cursed binding circle. Some of the kunai spread around Dark Naruto started to glow with a blue light, and from said kunai a chain of seals started to form, advancing towards the surprised doppelganger. The chain of seals formed a circle, which started to glow with even more intensity. Ha! You fell in my trap. Naruto boasted. Now you can't move. You lost. A fairly decent trap, I will concede that, Dark Naruto calmly said. Though I wouldn't be so sure of your victory yet. What are you dash? Naruto was interrupted by a scythe blade coming for his neck, which he dodged in the last second. The blonde Jinchuriki saw a strange figure wearing a priestly black robe, and its face obscured by a white skull mask with red marking and fox ears. There was a large scythe on its hands, whose blade glowed with chakra. What the hell? Who are you? Naruto asked. But the only response he got was another charge, followed by vicious scythe swings. As Naruto defended from this newcomer, he felt the ground under his feet tremble. Years of experience and dealing with Earth release users made him know instantly the ground wasn't safe anymore. And true to his instincts, something burst from underground seconds after jumping, a giant snake, also wearing a white and red mask. What the hell are these things? Naruto said, as he landed on a nearby branch. From his vantage point, he could see that Dark Naruto was still immobilized, but he knew those seals wouldn't last forever. He needed to get rid of these creatures as soon as possible. However, before he could formulate a plan, he was alerted by a low-pitched growl. Turning around, he saw a masked tiger leaping at him. Naruto had no time to react, and the tiger's rush knocked him out of the branch and fell to the ground with a loud thud. Shit! He cursed as he tried to get back on his feet before those three creatures would attack him again. Meanwhile, several meters above them, Fu continued fighting her doppelganger. She tried to smash her with her giant oak log, but Dark Fu proved to be exceptionally fast and nimble, dodging all of Fu's swings with insulting ease. Seriously, girl, you need to stop, Dark Fu stated. You're embarrassing both of us with this display. You can't hit me with that, and even if you did, you lack the strength to cause me any sort of damage. Interesting theory. Let's put it to test then. Fu said, as she brought down her mighty oak log onto Dark Fu. However, much to her surprise, Dark Fu managed to catch the log on the other end with her bare hands. Surprise that only grew when the log was pulled out of her hands and casually tossed away. You were saying? Dark Fu boasted. Honestly, it's amazing that you managed to last as long as you did. Jinchuriki stronger and more skilled than you fell to the Akatsuki. Do you think that's fair? No, it's not, Fu replied, as she charged forward. But it's not my fault that they were captured. Hurricane Punch. Fu delivered a wind-enhanced punch that released a violent burst of air, but Dark Fu managed to dodge it expertly. I'm not blaming you. But you have to admit that you're very lucky indeed. You had the entirety of Konoha covering your back. How many Konoha ninjas did die protecting your sorry existence? How many more died while trying to reconquer the pitiful attempt at a ninja village you call a home? Don't you dare to badmouth Taki. Fu hollered as she delivered a roundhouse kick. Kick that Dark Fu easily blocked. Why? I'm only telling the truth. You've been in both Taki and Konoha. Deep down, you know how a true village must be. Besides, why do you defend Taki so much? It's not that you have people there that like you, other than Shibuki. Your friends and boyfriend are all from Konoha. Just because I haven't made friends in Taki doesn't mean I won't ever will. Fu replied, delivering a combo of fast punches and kicks. Combo that once again was also blocked by her dark counterpart. Keep telling yourself that. After all, you aren't even sure if those Konoha brats are your friends, or they merely hang out with you out of something else. Maybe they just pity you, and deep down they want nothing to do with you. Shut up. Fu shouted as she made a hand seal, while exhaling a cloud of glittering scales. Hiding in scale powder jutsu. Fu clapped her hands once, and the dark forest was filled with a bright, blinding light. Taking advantage of the sudden light, Fu charged forward, ready to deliver a punch to the head. However, said punch was easily caught by the hand of her enemy. Seriously? Are you trying to use such a childish tactic against me? Dark Fu chided. She shook her head. If your so-called friends could watch you now, what would they say? They would cheer me on. Fu replied, tried Tom punch with her evil twin with her other hand, but the result was the same. Please, don't make me laugh. You met this world's version of Shino. Somebody who speaks non-stop and never shuts up. Didn't you find him annoying? Boring? Now think that's how people feel when they have to suffer your presence. Dark Fu started to spin her good counterpart in a circle, before violently tossing her down. Fu fell like a meteor, crashing against the ground with a loud crash, raising a cloud of dirt and dust, and opening a large crater. However, the dust cloud was immediately dispelled as Fu shot upwards almost as fast as she fell down. Fu's eyes glinted with a golden light, and they were surrounded by green marks in the shape of butterfly wings. Naruto had such a good idea of leaving shadow clones gathering nature energy. With Sage Mode, these guys stand no chance against us. Fu thought, as she delivered yet another punch at her foe's face. Once again, Dark Fu caught her good counterpart's fist with her hand. Fu expected the hand to be blown up from the rest of the arm due to the sheer force, but such thing didn't happen. Dark Fu's hand gripped Fu's fist firmly. What? How can you? Fu asked in shock. Sage mode didn't work? Dark Fu teased, much to the green-haired girl's surprise. Look closely. Fu did so, and much to her horror, realized that Dark Fu's eyes were no longer red, but golden, and had green marks around the eyes shaped like butterfly wings. You have Sage mode too? Fu asked in shock. Weren't you listening to me at the beginning of the fight? I'm the real you. Everything you do, I can do better. Sage mode included, Dark Fu boasted, as her grip around Fu's fist tightened. It would do you some good if you listened once in a while instead of talking all the time. Dark Fu then grabbed Fu's wrist with her other hand, pulled her violently, and tossed her against a nearby tree. The impact was so brutal, it blew a hole on the tree, caused its upper part to topple down. Meanwhile, Naruto, already in Sage mode as well, was fending off Dark Naruto's masked beasts when he saw Fu being brutally tossed against a tree. He didn't see where she landed, though she could sense she was still alive. Fu! Naruto yelled, while kicking the masked tiger, hurling it against a tree. Spiraling ring of terror. Naruto saw a dark purple sphere of chakra with pure white rings circling around it flying against him. Pumping chakra into his feet, the blonde jumped just in time before the attack connected, creating a big explosion that carved a large crater into the ground, while obliterating the trees, rocks, and bushes around the blast zone. Wow, such power, Naruto said in awe, before landing on the grass. Impressive, isn't it? Dark Naruto proudly said. And that's nothing but a smidge of my actual power. Though I must thank you for using Sage mode. With it, my jutsu can reach an even greater level. What the? Naruto asked, upon noticing Dark Naruto's golden eyes and orange marks around them. You can use Sage mode too. I believe we already went through this, the evil doppelganger said. He made a hand seal. Time to end this nonsense. The 3 masked creatures from before landed behind Naruto, while 6 more landed around him. Some of them were more animals, like one who looked like a bird and another that resembled a mix between a dragon and a seahorse, though the others appeared to be human. If you think numbers are on your side, then think again. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto made his favorite hand seal, and 100 clones appeared besides him. Albeit none of them had Sage mode like the original. You must think I'm impressed, Dark Naruto deadpanned, as he mimicked Naruto, and created another 100 clones of his own. Everybody, attack! Both armies of clones and the 9 masked creatures charged forwards, clashing in the middle, resulting in a brutal melee battle. The air was filled by a cacophony of shouts, yells, and steel clashing against steel as both armies fought relentlessly. This is just a distraction. If I can reach the real one, it will be over, Naruto thought, before making several hand seals. Wind release, riding the hurricane. A tornado formed around Naruto's legs as he started to elevate above the crowd. However, before he could gain more altitude, a white translucent ribbon wrapped around his body, pinning his arms to it. What the? Naruto asked, looking at the source of the deceptively strong bind, and saw it was one of the masked creatures. This one, another humanoid dressed like a priestess. He tried to struggle, but was unable to. Hey, a little help over here. Some of the clones heard Naruto's plea and tried to get closer in order to release him, but sadly they were cut down by the Dark Naruto clones and some of the remaining masked creatures. To add to his distress, he saw Fu's battered body crashing into the ground near the battlefield, with her evil counterpart happily landing beside her. Then, she grabbed the green-haired girl's neck, and in one swift motion, she snapped it. No! Naruto screamed. Fu's dropped with a thud, and it instantly turned into a cloud of glowing white dust that dispelled in a few seconds. Guess that this one couldn't defeat the darkness within her, Dark Fu said in a mocking tone. She then looked at the ongoing battle. So, are you going to finish him already, or what? Yeah, just give me a second, Dark Naruto said, as he walked towards the immobile Naruto. This one can't beat his darkness either. Shut up. This is nothing. I can still beat you. Naruto shouted as he futilely tried to break free of his bindings. Because you're so good, right? Because you think you're the hero that will save your village, Dark Naruto sneered. You abandoned your friends when you found them annoying. And ignored your father when he warned you that you'll only find death coming here. Those weren't the real versions of my friends or my dad. I would never do that to them. Naruto protested. They're as real as I am, the black-haired young man said, as he extended a hand. Another purple sphere with white rings formed around his fingers. Sorry, Naruto, but you can't defeat me. Now perish. Spiraling Ring of Terror. In a split second, Dark Naruto crossed the distance that separated them and smashed his jutsu into Naruto's chest, resulting in a massive explosion. And after that nothing. Real world, wah. Naruto and Fu screamed, before scanning their surroundings, and realized that they were no longer in the forest of death. Instead, they were back on the small island in the Lake of the Falls of Truth. Naruto instinctively reached his hand to his chest, and Fu to her neck. Both of them found much to their relief that they were okay. Hey! Motoi's voice called, as he ran towards them. You okay? Why yeah, Naruto replied, still processing what happened. Hey, how is that it suddenly became daytime? Fu asked, looking at the bright sky. Motoi couldn't help but chuckle. Because in the mental world you've been in, time passes differently. I take you've been a whole day inside the mental world, right? However, from our point of view, only a couple minutes passed. I see, Naruto replied. Don't worry if you didn't got it on your first try, your inner darkness is no small fry. Killer Bee rapped as he joined them. How did you know we failed? Fu asked. You sour faces are easy to read, it's easy to tell that you didn't do the deed, Killer Bee replied. But you don't have to worry, you can try again, there's no reason to be sorry. But first you should try to rest a bit, Motoi helpfully offered. The experience must have been draining. Trying immediately won't net you better results. Sure thing, Motoi-san, Naruto said, as he got up and started to walk away. Fu, you coming? Yeah, Fu said, her voice lacking her usual enthusiasm. As the Konoha and Taki Jinchuriki walked away, the two Kyumo ninja watched them. They could see their body language was nothing like how they were before taking the trial. The energy they carried themselves with was nowhere to be found. Whatever happened in that mental world had crushed them. Facing their inner darkness nearly broke them, Motoi observed. Let's hope they can soothe with time. I don't think we can win this war without their power. The normally talkative Kyumo ninja remained silent, merely observing his fellow Jinchuriki walking away.